And roll back in the song. Roll back in the line. Welcome to another question and answer class. All eyes over Egypt, New Jersey. Before we begin, as usual, we're going to read the Pledge of Obedience. Parahan Shalem Luzbaku, the Pledge of Saint Nakoprahun Tayuan, the year Wu-Sabat. I pledge allegiance to Wu-Sabat. Shalel Pa Tahuda, Wu-Sabat Shabbat of the United Sabian Tribe. Waku Wuisar, Ahek Masbak Wu Masa. One family on the service in Orion. Karea Shahu, Burahu, Sahu, Hakum, Sahu, Fa'ahu, with correct or right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding. Lahe Kanal, Sahu Tahu, Karea Jamu Sa'u, Nakush, for all light, overstanding, for the sound, right reason. This is the pledge of Sabians, Nuwabians, Nation. All of us make that pledge to our culture, to our doctrine, to live it and love it and not misuse it or abuse one another by way of. So before we take questions, caution multiple questions, we do our best to answer as student teachers of master teacher, Baba Yanu. Before we take questions today, I would like to read the Musbatu Ethics, number 6. We, as Mubati of Sadian, live for, of, and by each other, being awake. 1. Musbatu of Wu-Sabat. Know that aware is awareness of being aware. Better said, here and now, right now, I am aware of myself, where I am, what I am doing, where I have been, and what I have experienced. I am aware. 2. I am aware of feelings by touch, contact such as pleasure, pain, hunger, and thirst. These are physical awareness. 3. I am aware of need, desire, love, and hate. These are mental awareness. 4. I am aware of my surroundings. That is, to be aware that wherever I am personally, I am the center of all things, places, and persons are around me. I am the point from whom all is equally distant from all points. 5. I am aware that I am in control of all things around me, insofar as how close or far, when it is, and how I move from my point as the center. So I'm aware of deity. I am aware. 6. I'm aware that all others are also their own center, yet not aware of that actual fact, nor that I'm aware of them, he or she. 7. I'm aware of those who claim to care for me, those who claim to love me. I am not aware if that is the truth or a lie, yet I'm aware of how I feel about others. 8. I am aware, and being aware of my own being, I can build it or destroy it. I can protect my being or allow it danger. I can keep my being healthy or I can poison. 9. I'm aware of the fact that I am unique, and even if I procreate another human being with another human being, that each is unique. Each is a center, and from that center is choice, which is a change of thought. And I am aware that that is the only certain thing outside and inside of my being. I am aware of that change. Truth is truth. Fact is fact. No faith can replace facts. And again, that's the Sabian or Mizbatu Ethics number 6. Do you have any questions so far? Right. Rules quiet. All right. Again, you know, and watching on that in there as well, that as students of master teacher Baba Yango, the first species Dr. Malachi Roll, don't like to lecture. It's about questions with an answer, and answers come from the master teacher by the questions we ask, by the answers given. That is the universal circle of progression, and we must abide by that in order to keep getting this knowledge and nourishment from the master teacher. So, on that day, I'm going to read a short update that just came recently. It's really just the information, and it's entitled People Claiming to Be a Bus. And the master teacher already listed them as number 1, nationers; number 2, trigers; number 3, congregationers; number 4, farriers; number 5, readers; number 6, wannabe Ganooners; 7, undercover agents; 8, hustlers. Then in 9, there's a question: which are you? Of those 9 that were listed for the 8 plus, which are you? That's the question. Point number 10 refers us to Revelation chapter 14, verse 4, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, from 2002 to 25 AD, by the pen of Bab Yanun, a master teacher. Real short and concise. But these are questions that we have to confront ourselves along the vein of being aware. If you're aware, if you are, you fit somewhere on here, or are you a true student of the master teacher? And so far as you represent the culture as given, you represent the doctrine as given, you did not change or add to it, you read it, study it, let it become you, let the healing take place, and you move forward to be the progressive tribe of people that we should be. Hmm. God bless. Lebanese.
So it seems like according to this, right? It seems like everything on 1 to 5 is good. CD.
Let's see. Let's see. Who's are?
And then everything else is me. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's showing the duality of the universe. You have the positive aspects of a person and the culture, and then you have the negative aspects. So we should be or strive to be all of 1 through 5, but not just in one of those singularly, because that goes amongst us who are just readers. So they absorb the knowledge, they don't share, they don't pass it. We're directed to read, read, agree, teach, teach, teach. So if you just want to pick one and say, oh, I'm a national, those be the ones that'll be like, Wicked Mass with side pay. You know what I mean? And then you have the tribers. They also say, oh, we're with this particular part of that, where you should be all of that.
Those kind of
Those congregations are the ones that only want to come for chant, whole ritual, off even events because they want to congregation. Other than that, but they're the ones, which is good because if you want to come and partake in the rituals, but they're the ones who come for the fun parts and never stay to clean up. Or they'll come early to help set up. Like, we're going to congregate, we're going to eat, and we're going to have fun, and then we're going to leave. So they still don't feel that complete connection where, well, I want the bookstore, I want the temple to look good. So let me go early, make sure it's set up, see what they need, still enjoy myself. And then as we are cleaning up, sometimes you have more fun at that point. If they're cleaning up, we're laughing at the joking. But the congregation was when we want to come. That part, that moment, you know what I mean? Then you got the familiars. So does that mean family as in your son sticking or family as in just my family? Yeah. As long as my family's good, then I'm all right with that. Not knowing that your family is my family and my family is your family. So the other ones are like limiting aspects of what it is to be a be Satan, Nubian nation. You know what I'm saying? Again, the readers, of course, it's good to read because there's a healing in the reading. But that healing should also want you to help and heal others because the master teacher, we're his helpers. So once you read, come keep it to yourself. So when you get in a group of the congregationers, you want to sound happy. Right? Yeah, so people say, hey, I got that book. So those are the ones we would say, or just by observing, those are the ones that collectors. They were to be the first one to say, I got the book. Well, I'd rather be the first one to say, I understood the book. So it might take me a little longer. And then, yeah, of course, 6 to 8. Yeah, there's no fathers that spin. I could be on that. Unless you want to be a Yamuna in all honesty, as a lawyer student, because we're told that we can be risen by way of the doctrine, these 720 means. But you got the one of the Yamunas, and that's the ones you want to be the master teacher. I want to replace him. Not good. Of undercover agents, those are the ones that sit amongst us, basically shadow people. They sit amongst us, it's all we're talking about, and run and tell the people that they're really with everything that we do. And then sometimes the wrong type of information is in the wrong hands, and they go through something that turns around and hurts the collective because they were undercover. You got the hustlers. Those are the ones, the book is $10, but we can't find it. Some sell it for $100. The eBayers, and love all y'all, but know your position in the universe, the scheme of things. So that's not it. Because if you're trying to make a dollar profitable off of this doctrine, you actually, the money you get is down payment to lose your soul. But you. So I would not hustle. I'd rather, someone bought a book and like some people asked me recently, are the books new? Yes, I'm not going to sell you a used book. You know what I mean? I'm like, ask somebody else. Come ask me. Because let somebody else who be sold the book to speak on our behalf. As opposed to you talking to me one-on-one. You're like, well, that's what Sabat said, but how do I know? Ask someone else, right? Because I'm not going to hustle you. I'm not going to charge you $20, $34 more than that when I want you to read the book. So as what the book costs or what you should pay for it, and then read it and come back and ask questions. So, being hustlers. And then at the end of the day, this point 9 is the mirror that you now, which one are honest. And if you understand what that is, you should say, either I'm going to do my best to be the best that I can see and not portion myself off when I have a great soul inside of it. So, when you read the biblical references, you kind of get clear idea what the master teacher is talking about. That's a good question that you ask. Is a lot happening because a lot of us still don't grasp that great falling away. Because a lot of them thinking, I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do. Which one are you? And if you're making a choice off this list, then there's still something lacking in your spiritual development and nothing else. You know what I mean? You have to be like, yeah, I'm all of that except for the things that hurt the culture. I'm all of these except for days that hurt the master teacher at spreading false information, saying things like, he hit letters. When writing the letters is going to get him a hit. So if you really love him, you have to think, why they really hear that first end? I heard it like I was read maybe second and third end. Let me investigate it first instead of running and telling other people and all the would write him letters because we do love him. He is our spiritual master teacher and God. But in that regard, his welfare color before my dirty to get return letter. So things like that, we got to really be careful how we move it right now, you know. And then there's a separation that falling away. And all the master teachers saying by that is for everybody to come home. Put down all the things that separate us. Put down all the new idiosyncrasies or things that are attached to the ego. Because ego, everybody's got one. We know that. But when you subdue that for the betterment of the collective, then ego doesn't play a part in the decisions that we make or how we treat one to us.
Oh gosh. Up there, he says 2002 to 2020 Kai.
Right. What is the 2000? What's the relevance to 2000? So 2002 was when the master teacher was kidnapped. I mean, 2002. And right after that, people walked away.
Okay.
Literally, you were younger, but you know how proud it was. Saturday nights, Sunday for class, Thursday for the rituals, etc., etc. Right after they kicked out the master, you had to go and really get overstand everything. So they were like, oh, I don't know, we did it. And then now when the facts of the case are coming out, they're like, well, I don't know if I can go back to say, you know what I mean? So people start dripping away, right? Because they felt the magnetism of the master teacher, but he was developing the magnetism in us as well. So that we would stay together and start stick. That's where it started.
So from 2002 to 2020, like that Kastemi, the great call text. The after that would be the remainders of what the 100 boyfriend.
Exactly. Like shifting for goals. You know what I mean? All the rest and all other stuff falls away. But the master teacher is still saying until that great day happens, that great dreadful day, come together. Stop using your dislike of a person to not steal your path of development. That doesn't make sense. That's not right now. Because when you work with somebody, or be around somebody that you quote unquote dislike, that reason you dislike them fades away. Is now you see the progression that you had when y'all work together, which is why it is so important that we all support bookstores, not just in New Jersey. People from New Jersey, we go to Philly, we go to Brooklyn, we go to wherever there's another a function. Some of us are going to go by because we all supporting each other, right? So it doesn't make sense if you're on this list for your own selfish reasons. And it's not a condemnation. It is an observation that makes it different. It's an observation without emotional attachments. It's more sector. But truth is true.
Eric Perkins, he asked, when want to have more language clocks?
You know what, book down? I got you. I got you. I know we were supposed to get started. We had to work on a few things. I'm not sure if we do have Telegram, but we have language classes 7 days of the week. I'll put it in there when I get a chance to type it. But for this particular map draw, we're gonna start after. I want to say now maybe in March. So what I would suggest, and this is from me to you and whoever else is watching, a lot of words have been updated, but don't get discouraged by that. If you have the wisdom of Yanu, that purple scroll, and just show me real quick. If you have this one, read it. A lot of the words in there are updated. Also, we had 33 commandments. However, it has been so long since we had group classes here at the bookstore. We may just start over. So what I would suggest is to brush up on your numbers, brush up on your colors, and then make the brush up on some household items. Because you have to start, you are a little more advanced, a little more ahead of some of the people that will be joining. If you don't want to just shoot out like that, so maybe just start over with the hatter fact, the colors, the numbers, and certain household items. All right, just be patient with us. We're just trying to make sure we do it right and not leave those behind that weren't there the last time we started. So real soon, with that. I'm not sure where you are, but up here we've been having a lot of adverse weather. So that also pushes back a lot of the things that we want to do. Have to make sure the store's kept well, kept warm. You don't want people sitting here and they're cold with other people when they do online and they feel comfy, which is good, but more to make sure people that come are comfortable as well. So real soon, okay, just be patient with us. We appreciate that. That's hands are oh go.
Well, I would just ask your guest speaker at the class is how cool and what you are. But I was speaking about how no is part of the order bird and how he represents the feather. Do you know anything else about that? That's not the first time hearing that. But what is the significance of the bird and his relation?
I'm not absolutely sure. I don't want to. I've heard it as well. I think it was also in Holy Tablets, and one of the orders of bird was the order of peacock. So I'm not sure if it's representing peacock or our ancient Egyptian bird, which is the Vindi, right? So I'm not sure. I'd have to ask it to get more information on that. As far as its feather goes, that's related to the hot, right? And that's about justice and truth, and fairness in dealing with all beings. Notice, for those who may not be aware, the master teacher, he is so the presence of Ashuk is so ingrained in him that he can forgive those that he knows betray him. That is a skill that many of us are still working on. We can't get past somebody not calling us that. You call him that, somebody will call you ever, ever again. But to certain backs that I haven't actually looked at it. So I know there's more to it. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I haven't heard when that will be. You got anything on that? Okay.
I thought it was because I heard that before. And I was like, the order of the bird. I didn't cry the order first. I want to know more about it. It's not pretty sure it's probably, some sacred was if there was any basics.
Right. Then he has to rebuild on that. And that's a good question. Again, a lot of the answers that we see have to come or have to be precipitated or uh referenced by a question. Like that question would have been one of the ones that would have been good to ask when he had us out with the AO mask on the land that it's Mrs. Richard Mayate. That would have been one of those nights he probably gave it up. I heard because that's something ask a lot of things. Right. I'm like, yeah, sometimes you be looking at him and he be building like, let me just come in here, man, instead of saying, I got it, but I don't get this part. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely. I ain't had them questions online yet. Alright. So, speaking of that class, Mrs. Egyptian Mahab, there was a proportion of that class that the master teacher was talking about us taking during battles, right? So I'll read that and then that'll start some questions. So the master teacher Bobby Nanu was speaking as Daniel that evening, that class. When you learn to take this journey backwards, back into the self, you follow? The journey inwards, when you get down to one and learn to vibrate there, then it's easy for me to take you over into the etheric world. Because on the other side of this one number, hydrogen existence, H1, you start one ether, E1, on down to 8 ether, E8. In the element 6, it's from hydrogen to 8, and 8 is question mark oxygen. You see that? A gaseous form. So when you come down from 8 to 1 and walk into ether, when you get to 8 ether, you make a transformation into etheric form, another gaseous form, another form of gas. And you'll be able to travel that matter backwards and forwards. And anything that begins to happen to you in the physical plane between 8 and 1, all you do is drop your vibration level and transport your essence into the etheric world and wait to see what happens in the physical world. In that state, will now become a watcher of what's happening with you. That's a form of quantum without attainment. You can actually see different courses of their life on your timeline. But you have to develop yourself to do that. That's why the Master Teacher said, when y'all begin to comprehend that, I can teach y'all how to do things on the other side. Some many of us still want to be over here. It's nothing wrong because this is at this side of existence. But there's where we're going. It's best would be necessary to learn how to maneuver in that particular form. So as Master Teacher was talking about, if the physical body becomes damaged to the point where you no longer use it, but you had a job to do, you're able to pick anyone from your family who can vibrate on the same or same type of blood, because the liquid, the oxygen, and the water leads to you the same kind of blood as yours. So it leads to you. That spirit that's in the blood leads that to you. So if you're on the other side watching something happen here, but the physical body becomes damaged, you can actually go to the person in your family who vibrates on your level or close to or has the same blood, and you can speak to them and let them know what the job is. So the same kind of blood as yours, you could jump into their body and get a certain assignment done. The master goes on. Oftentimes, relatives will come back to a person in their family who they think are vibrating the same, and the person becomes afraid from seeing this gaseous, etheric image in their room, and the adrenaline produces a serum that cuts off or builds a gate where walking cannot get into your body. So your grandmother, who came back to get a message to someone who needed them, comes at the head of your bed, but then she turns and leaves. And she just says, I'm well, everything is fine, because you closed the gate through fear. You follow? So again, the master teacher was teaching us for years about as deities in flesh, the one thing we shouldn't have is fear, because fear kicks up a serum that blocks you from interdimensional communication with your disciple or your relative, or further back to your ancestors. So if you are a fearful person and you fear that you don't get the right results from chanting, you're blocking that. When you lose the fear, you chant with your whole essence, which we're talking about. This essence can go from hydrogen 1 up to E8 and then beyond. You become a full etheric form. Still gases, but the barrier between physical and etheric is removed as long as you don't have fear. All right? So now, Master Body Green goes on. You have to learn that monotheism created fear to cut you off from the spiritual world. Their whole philosophy, their whole doctrine of religion is based on stay afraid. Fear Allah, fear the Lord, fear retribution, fear hell, fear judgment, fear. You understand? So, you don't stay in a celestial state, a bliss state. You stay in a ever regretful state, because it's near impossible as a predominant invisible being most of the time not to do disagreeable things, right? And what if you do a disagreeable thing and the law is you do one sin, you're going to hell. Now you inherit a new, more dreadful attribute, guilt. And enough guilt will make you saying, what difference does it make? I'm already going to hell. I'm already a bad person. I'm already a disagreeable person. So I might as well not try to make a journey back. And that could not be further from the truth. Now, that's fear and what it does to you. Yes. How will you overcome that? Let's keep walking with the master teacher. All right. Once you learn not to fear, once you take on the role of God or deity and take on responsibility for your body and your soul and your spirit, those three great principles, that's the three great sins. When you conquer them, right? You conquer it all, and you can take that journey back and forth. That's what Om is about. Om is not you study books or you a reader. Om is not just that. You study books and you may have gotten bored and say, well, I was seeing great instruction because it's about waiting. This is important because you're talking about the falling away. We're talking about those 8 things that you are, which actually happens to coincide with the 8 occupants or the 8 elements that make their being. This is what the master teacher say. I don't see any great instruction because it's about waiting until the people who join on because they want a transcendental meditation journey. Get fed up and leave. And those people who want to stay will be here, and then we can get down to business. Dr. Narakaba Sigal, and Mr. the Egyptian Mahat. So this portion, this is an excerpt. That class was really long, but this next excerpt right here was touching on a lot of things that is going on now with the falling away. And he's waiting for people to leave. And then we can get down to what he really wants to teach us, right? So we ask, how do you conquer the fear? Okay, the first thing is how you develop yourself spiritually and mentally to realize there's nothing to fear from those who you come from, because they are you. They just were here before you, but they were there, which is here. And so are you when we talk about the great connection of the soul. So the first thing you want to do is develop your psychic self-defense so that the wargames that may occur be the ones that should occur, as opposed to the ones who see you vibrate or sense ether energy, and they're more to use your body to continue feeling that energy. Now, the minute we agree with something disagreeable, which is, like the master teacher said, is very difficult because we're predominantly physical, to never do something disagreeable ever. There may be a time you to do that. But those beings who are sixth ether, knowing that you're trying to be non-ether, they hover and wait for you to do one disagreeable thing. Then they slip in another thought. And if you agree with that, you open a pathway for them to come to you. But if you have this psychic self-defense, you will recognize that. So the minute you may happen to do something disagreeable, instead of going, I agree with this being disagreeable, so the next thought sounds less disagreeable, what you will do is experience regret, so that you could burn that disagreeable act out without extending you and becoming a part of your character. Because the more you let happen, the greater part of the disagreeable in you becomes. Right? So now, if you know how to learn those voices that may come to you, if you learn how to not fear, because we're talking about family, when we're talking about the sovereign, when we talk about our ancestors, when we talk about on the throttle, that's family, right? And those you have benevolent ones and you have malevolent ones. You learn to discern who's who. And then you learn to lose fear. And you will welcome when you chant and you feel yourself vibrating and you feel that there's a presence that's not physical, but it's amongst you, right? So we're chanting on the right tones and we got the right cadence and we're all moving and we become one and you feel that presence. Wouldn't it be safe and reasonable to say that's not a 6 ether being that's coming amongst us? Because we change no 9 ether frequency, so they can't come. So with that being that you feel, you welcome that. That's part of the thought of coming near to you. Because by your elevated spiritually, you're coming near to them. To be able to go and again, transverse up and down that of elements to be amongst them. Once that happens to any one of us and we personally experience that, there's nothing to fear, including all the things that's going on in the world right now. And a lot of them are done to promote what? Fear. Because they subsist off the reaction that your body emits when you're fearful of something. So that's how you do it. The first step is to know you.
So this kind of speaks to the question. Well, and put in the fear, see everything that the mayor is stealing and it's inciting fear everyone. With that in mind, and also with the new thing about the Black Unions, is this making more food?
Yeah, no, all the barons. Yeah, about this all about so, right. Basically, the fear, that's good. I like how you put that. So the fear, right, or the mass scale like that is seasoning for those beings. Because you already emit that something that attracts them because you fear, oh, plagues. You fear I'm going to lose my governmental assistance. You fear I'm going to lose my job. All those things, right? So now you're not sleeping because you're contemplating what if it didn't happen to you yet because you weren't on a plane. You didn't lose this, didn't lose that. But of course, that fear kind of starts to grow, and now you're pushing that out. You're emitting that. It's like a tone. And they go bigger one. They go to, we got that whole neighborhood. So it's time to come eat. You're already seasoned for them. But if you don't fear because you're using non-reasoning and non-mind, it's okay. That's that twofold day that's coming. The great and dreadful. What side am I walking on? Am I walking in my greatness because I'm a deity in flesh? When the thought came and pointed that out, reminded me to look again into my mind again. And I'm that. I don't fear that. I don't fear that because he's the guy. So stay close to him. When you fall away, guess what happens? There's space. between you and the master teacher. And we all know right now the space is not empty. So what's that that's taking up that space? Not just matter, but it's also distractions. And the further you look at the distraction, Bob is still moving. Those supposed to hit are still moving. It's like this big thing, universal movement, but you can't see that because we fear doing this, or we fear losing something that when you were younger you never had, right? So like some people say, people who smoke cigarettes, just an example. If you smoke cigarettes as a young adult or an adult, think back to the days that you didn't smoke. Did you miss it? So what triggered that? Fear of not looking cool in front of your friends? Peer pressure? Things like that. Now, sometimes it's a genetic predisposition that we gravitate to that. But again, when you use a non-mind, you stop yourself from all those addictions because they're not natural to our bodies. So certain foods that we read earlier, you would take care of the body or you could poison it. You could take care of the spirit or you could poison it. You can take care of the soul or you can poison it. You can take care of the mind or you can poison it. And if you poison it, then all right thought is gone. Until you give yourself that, you have to give yourself an exorcism. You get all those negative attributes out. That's learned behavior. So the same way we learn it, we can unlearn it. How? By sticking to the dungeon. You're like, what? All you want to do is read? Yeah. Yes. Because there's so many books that do a reading one a day, you have about a year or two without getting into any trouble. Right? So if you're reading it, you're actually building up the psychic self-defense of clear thought, and you will not be confused by the distraction that these beings are put out now by way of the media that they control. Now, how do we get past that? By covering amongst each other and sticking through right knowledge, right thinking, and learning how to live what? Of, for, and by each other. First thing I read in the ethics. We have to live of, for, and by one another. And that way we don't meet outside influences. Because there's enough of us in the tribe that is enough of us. Someone has a skill that we need. Someone has another skill. And if enough of us get together as skilled people living up and by each other, what need will we have with it? It's really simple, but it's complicated by the distractions. That's what we're talking about. When you learn to get past those distractions and not fear not having that, not wearing the best sneakers or not having all this stuff. What does that do in the Ethereum world? Nothing. Nothing. So all those distractions will have you so fearful that you're not thinking of the greater self, collectively or individually. I pray that answers the question. Tap that bill. Oh, yes. No, so I got it right. So it takes her.
So when we talk about the concept of clean yourself inside out and outside in,
Right.
explain that.
Okay. So as we just read from the Asa, the journey is inside. So you clean yourself inside out, outside in. Meaning we have to learn to live by the soul, which is inside of us right now, right? So when you go inside and start addressing all of the capabilities of the soul, and you pushing that forward, you're cleaning yourself inside out. Meaning you're going inside first, meeting up with the true you, and learning to listen to the true you, right? And when you do that, you're actually cleaning out all of those other influences that we've come under since we been here. So that means the other than shit out. The mentality of living by somebody else's religion out, right? Always thinking that the spirit and the soul are the same. That's false information. That's out. So when you go inside and tap into the soul, now you're tapping into these other realms of higher right knowledge, right? Well, that's that affirmation that's coming inside now. So now once you do inside out, that means now you're letting what's inside of you be the first thing people meet. That's the outside. And from outside in, meaning you're no longer allowing things from the outside to get in, which means bad food, bad habits, lack of rest, getting back to circadian rhythm. Because what happens on the outside, what you let in from the outside, actually determines how you age. When you affect your telomeres, how does your skin look, right? How does your hair? How's all these things that you still need while you're here? They're damaging. So once you clean yourself inside out and outside in, that means you're now coming to like a meeting point of pristine development. You have to have that. If you don't, it's going to be an imbalance. Like for a person who say, I know this, I know all this doctrine, and then they go and have a drink. Not for a wedding, not for a funeral, not for the birth of a child, but because it's Thursday. There's no reason for that outside to come in. You're not cleaning yourself outside in. And then also outside in and inside out refers to the mind. How do you think? What do you think about the most? Right? Because you become that. Whatever you think about the most, you're drawing it to you. That's the part about ourselves that we don't understand. How powerful the mind is that you can create or bring something into physical sonification because you keep thinking about it. Right? So there's condition. Just to give an example, hypochondrias, right? Those are people who think themselves sick. Where we're the opposite. We think ourselves as perfect beings on the path to perfection. So how do you do that? How do you do that from inside out? Stop ingesting or digesting things physically that's going to damage the body. The body right now is merely and nothing more. Again, it's our reality. But the body right now is just a space suit. And we have precious cargo on the inside that we have to go in and keep clean. We have to dust it off inside out. All of this madness that doesn't relate to us as natural nature beings, you have to be able to push that out. And once you begin that process of cleaning yourself inside out, you will no longer want to do things that are harmful to the suit. You won't. We just won't. And that's how you begin to clean yourself inside out. Another way is, again, by digesting the good stuff. Food for the soul. The doctrine, the books, the older classes with Baba Yaga. What he was teaching 20, 30 years ago is happening now. So don't act like this old.
In that audio that I was listening to for what you asked, in there you skied up. How was saying something I was dry and ended up my 100,000. Those holy like
Just think that's the whole time. So people like, oh yeah, well that's old. That's not the same. Okay, well let's do a little supreme math match. Where 9 need to be is, right? Well, 144, 1 plus 4 plus 4. Isn't that 9? So he was still giving us what we wanted. So we understand what he came to give. And now you can go back and marry that. Sound right, reasonable. Again, even when you go back to some of the older school, that's also a process of cleaning yourself inside out. You should take it out the religious jargon that was so attractive to us. And now you're eating the good stuff. That soul, that powerful affirmation, now you're consuming that. So when you do that by way of the doctrine, you are actually healing yourself. That's why you had this right here. These are the healing in his wings, in the master teacher's wings. These are the healers. But right here, the serpent, the raised serpent is a sign of intelligence. Don't get it twisted, but otherwise believe it's a negative thing. This is a sign of what? Intelligence. You have to pass certain schools in order to get your serpent raised to wearing a headdress. Then you have this, which is what? Our second resurrection. Don't act like you don't know what a knot tweet. You know what an ankh is, that's singular. Tweet in our language means double resurrection. So anything that we do has a serious meaning, and it relates to development of what? Becoming a 720 is. Again, 7 plus 2 is 9. The master teacher is who he is. And for those who don't feel that way, as saviors, respect your right to think you're right. But don't try to convince us or have us thinking other than who he is. Or more importantly, because we're talking about us as the sake of our own universe, who we are. And that's how you clean yourself inside out, by pushing out all the things that don't relate to you naturally. Naturally. And again, the body first, because everything touches the body first. The mind is that ever watchful part. The soul is that ever watchful part. So it's watching what you do. And when you open the door for a soul to rise up and be that first thing that everybody sees, it will happily do so for you. Because it better be the soul. All right? I'm afraid that answers your question. They writing rule. They reading, I guess. They reading, y'all study. Okay. Mm-hmm. I got one more. This is a question to y'all. If y'all want to type in, y'all want to answer. Well, pretty sure y'all know. Are we alone here on the planet? No, no. Those in the wine seat, y'all got to answer the question, type yes or no. You think we're actually alone?
Never know.
Right. So this is an update that's called Extra Beings on Earth. So ones from outside, Mukaraji, aliens, outsiders, prokaryotics, sent to the planet Earth 9 million years ago by the aliens of Sirius and Orion. Syrians and Orions germinated this planet and transported the single cell of the Sands people to the Indian Ocean in South Africa 450,000 years ago. So the aliens came and landed north in Scandinavia and seeded Gur and the Nordics and white albino race, humanoid of Norse origin, white fur, white eyes, transparent skin, 7 feet, in bodies, fangs, and carnivorous, later cannibalistic. 50,000 years ago, Kahan 74, or chapter 70, verse 4, a jubilee, the Arcturians of both Series A and B returned to Earth in Mesopotamia, seeking gold from Africa. 6,000 years ago, Adapa and TTE, 4,000 years ago, the Arcturians of both A and B returned with the Draconians to Thutmose before, on Moses Musa, found in Acts chapter 7, verse 22 to 23. Exodus chapter 7, verse 1. Exodus chapter 2, verse 19. 2,000 years ago, the Arcturians of B sent one of their own to Earth, Tammuz, son of Dammuz, or son of God, or God, son of Yahweh, called Jesus, Yeshua, Isa, Emmanuel, as a savior to our own lost tribe of Judah. 1700, the Bladenians mentioned in Job 9:9 sent one of their own to President George Washington. In the 1800s, the Bladenians sent one of their own, named Moroni, to give a book to a man, Joseph Smith, founder of the Mormons, with the Book of Mormons, which is the Adamites' finding testament. In the 1900s, the Elder Baron did Adolf Hitler to help him. 1930s, Elder Barons were introduced to President Herbert Hoover by the Germanists and onto President Harry S. Truman to end the war. 1945, Alpha Centauri is mentioned in Quran chapter 83, verse 18 through 19, or Ilion sent one of their own, Yanun, to break the spell of ignorance on the lost sound children of the stars. Sirius and the Noah and Zeta Reticularies sent 4 Greys to be his watchers, Krill, Saax, Alamar, and Arima, with all his life. 2000 AD, the end of the 6,000-year dominion or rule from 4000 BC of the Adamites hide this species, and they will fade away. The beings from Arcturus A and Arcturus B are the so-called gods, angels, devil of the Bible, Quran, and Book of Mormon. Language changed so that their name or attributes changed for the original found in the stone tablets. Most don't know that what they believe is a ghost or devil or angel and aliens living in their whole world linked to this one multiverse. The aliens were in Earth realm long before Adam, so 6,000 years ago. They could come from their realm or dimension and dwell here, or visit even before the great craft called Marduk crashed into the Earth which was originally 48,000 miles in circumference at the equator, now it's half its original size. Now 24,000 miles in circumference and at the equator, and on a 23.5-degree axis or 24 degrees as it wobbles and is affected by this moon, an alien-made observatory. These aliens came from many planets or dimensions. There are good ones and evil ones. They had their own lives, not all the same. Just like humans, there are males and females. They had sex, eat and drink, dress, dance, sing, fight. Everything humans do, they do. Yet, some have more power and can shapeshift. They are governed by overlords with rules and regulations, which, like humans, is also violated and broken. Some are alien, while some others are more etheric and interdimensional beings or elemental beings. Some are monsters of many kinds. They are not supposed to interfere in the realm of beings, yet they do. They may even get a dead person at death and take him into their realm for amusement or torture, where they abuse them. This is where the concept of hell comes from in the religions of the Bible and Quran. While the curse on the Adamites, once most of them die, they become orbs, and they are trapped on this realm with the fallen angelic beings of Revelation chapter 12, verses 9 through 12, Isaiah chapter 14, verses 8 to 20, Revelation chapter 18, verse 2, Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 2 to 18. Then trapped here at the death, encased. So, the aliens are the fallen angelic beings, 200 Adigi, cherubim, who are and were allowed to dwell in this realm and can influence the Adamite people and those who accept their religion. As you read in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, the aliens put hate, that's Stephen Strong's number 342, or Iba, between them, enmity, and the seed of Lakash, Hebrew Show 5175. So both add seeds, offsprings, persons, and Adamites are to hate all others, and that's why they live by racism to this day, the world over. The Elohim, or Hebrew Strong's number 430, or gods, or El, Hebrew Strong's 410, in the Bible, tells them to kill others, men, women, even children, who are not Adamites. That's found in Numbers 31, chapter 31, verse 7 through 11. Deuteronomy, chapter 20, verse 13. Judges, chapter 1, verse 11. So, their God, gods, Lord, lords, Allah, Rab, told the seed of Adam to hate and kill others, to rape their women, and enslave their children, and steal from them. These are evil aliens. They think are God. And aliens or saint, be it as Christian or Muslims, all don't really know the truth of their religious books. And the aliens who revealed them by way of life and evil light, who revealed them by way of fire and evil light, and who work with beings from other realms and dimensions, linked this earth realm and taught Adamites how to rule for 6,000 years. And for those who have been privy to an update again from our doctrine called the Pen of Baba Yanun, he clearly defined that this planet, as well as others in this solar system, emit a certain sound. That sound goes out into the solar system and into the universe, and it attracts certain beings. This is a water planet, so of course the beings that are attracted here are reptilians. And these beings are the overlord of the Pleiadian who created the Adamites. So there's a chain of command even amongst Epiates who are here now. And people, that's why I asked the question, are we above? And we're not. The tour. What is out there? This is from, it sounds from, yeah, it's from September. Yes, it's recent, September.
And then another question is,
Yes.
who created the Phagians? Because I know we some Yakonians are the overlords, but in Katarat Sarabubukara Chepalusepa, it says that they were not originally meat like flesh eaters. the shades to be red. There's yours. So who created them? The draconians that would it kind of doesn't make sense because draconians are meat eaters. They're flesh eaters.
Right.
So they weren't originally created that way because he was saying Gradians are humanoids, so they didn't originally eat humans.
Correct. But they were being chased by that Dorians for food. Yeah, and I guess they caught some of them, but it's a mixture with them, so you have that genetic interception. And then some of them still don't eat meat, and then you have some that do. So I don't know who actually made it down. Yeah, great. No, I'm not sure who did that.
And then not all draconians are flesh eaters.
That's right. That's right. Or draconians are not either.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
I just know we hear so much about the Pleiadians. I'm like, who created them? What is their creation story?
Right. That is something you got to look up too. Oh, you see. Okay. All right. So let's go over here. All right. Got any question online? Yeah. Hold on. We're fast to class. My small cafe. So we can speak to him as well. All right. And who was it? Who was it from? Achim Dotson. Oh, Achim. Achim. This is them. Yeah. Achim. Hey, Achim. Oh, okay. That one? Have you ever felt? Okay, I'll wait you get up to me. Robert. Robert. All right. So we do have a question from Akim Dotson. He says, Robert, have you ever felt survivor's guilt and how should one deal with it?
Nope. I never saw it personally. These are terms that Europeans came up with, where survivor's guilt, when you look it up, because they made it up, right? Was when people die or some tragic bad happened, and you're a survivor. And somehow you feel guilty that you survived later. So, how do you deal with something like that? It's not your fault, for one. If some tragic event happened that wasn't your fault, then you just have to, help give reverence to the Most High that you made it, and hopefully else people make a positive transition. But otherwise, it don't make no sense than putting on yourself, the entirety.
All right. Let's see. All right. We have question from Malta, Adia, Rachel. And I apologize if I don't pronounce your first name correctly. Her question is, can you go over basic energy, ether, which permeates the entire universe, and how it relates to us individually being non-ether, so I could fully understand? And then this is in actual fact, emotional energy, verses 23 to 29.
Okay. So we'll read it. So I'll start from 21. It says, also, the physical body of mortals, this applies to as well. The cells which compose the physical body, its tissues, nerves, and blood, are of these same intangible squirrels. We see Milwaukee's electromagnetic energy, such as radio, heat, light, and X-rays, can be envisioned as traversing the ethers in the form of bullets or clusters called quantum particles. And now, Milwaukee's, this is ether. Their entire universe is permeated with a basic energy, which is of a rarefied concentration compared to the energy bundles which comprise atoms and quantum particles. Rarefied means less dense, that's all, right? You will have a hard time trying to conceive of basic energy with the same goal stand associated with energy, because the basic type had no motion and cannot impart force. It is quiescent, passive, and imperceptible. It is the mother, want of energy and matter. It is that from which all things are created, and she is revealed to you by evidence existing in the wave phenomena of the propagation of light and that moves a vibration into three colors: blue, yellow, red, which birth all others. By this we know it. She is Pa Palut, the existence of this basic energy or ether, Ak, imposes a limit on the speed of Nawar. Right. The question was,
Yeah, can just go over the basic energy.
okay, basic energy is just what we term as ether. Now, how does ether come into this picture? We know that a couple of years ago, scientists used to acknowledge the term ether because that's their word. But remember, Bible gave us the word for in our language as what? Or akak, right? So they came up with the word ether, or they spell it Aether, right? In the Greek, I believe. So what happened is this. One time they understood that ether permeates all the spaces as the book is saying, right? Meaning, anywhere there's, like my brother was saying earlier, there's no empty space. So what you call empty space is just energy is there that's imperceptible to the human eye. Right. When we look at physical objects on the physical plane, everything on the physical plane is made up of what? Atoms, right? We know that atoms are is a solid particle, right? Atoms themselves are made up of subatomic particles. Right. We know we look at this as atomic particles. In our culture, that would be atom particles, right? And under atom or subatom, you have smaller particles. In our culture, those would be the deities. All our elements and all our deities and the elements are synonymous for each other. So under atom, you have beings that exist. So going into the ether, the darkness, we're talking about beyond the hydrogen atom. So we know the first atom gets hydrogen on the physical side. And then if you go beyond that, meaning if you crack the hydrogen or cut the hydrogen atom, you find out that it's made up of something else. It's made up of quarks, right? And then if you split the quarks, you find out that's made up of bombs, right? And if you turn up the heat, because you cannot split biaps just like that. You have to turn up the heat. That's why they made the hadron collider. Once you turn up the heat, you get ether. You know what I'm saying? Ether is the energy that they can't see. They don't have a machine for, but it is the very energy, what we call them basic, is the single form of energy that make the other elements or the subatomic particles possible. Our ancient masters understood that this is what makes up everything in the universe. And going backwards, right? Because you got the energies going forward from hydrogen 1 going to 2, the second element, on to the 8th element, oxygen, right? That's the physical aspect of stuff. But going backwards, you have the elements going in reverse. You have H1, right? No, E1, E2, E3, all the way to E9, which would be 9 ether on our side. Now, we know that if you go back to scrolls like the Holy Tablets, the master teacher told you that he gave you an example of ether on the periodic table of elements as well. He just tell you that if we find 9 ether, the 9th element on the periodic table element, which is what? After oxygen. Anyone. Flora, right? Then you go in the opposite. 9 ether would be the opposite of that. So that would be on the other side of physical things. So if I have to draw a chart, the chart will have a line in the middle. On the right side, right, will be hydrogen all the way up to the 99 element. And on the opposite side will be E1s all the way to 99 element or 100% etherium. So us on this side, we understand us as 90 for being held. No, keep going. Us as 90 for being are the very thing. We are made up of the very thing that created or grew the entire universe. And when you deal with 9 ether, we're dealing with 9% etherium, right? Now our ancestors were 100% etherium. They the ones that grew the universe. I say grew on purpose because most people that I'm telling you science that the universe was creating, right? Well, the word create, when you look it up etymologically, it means to grow. So the universe was grew by 9 ether beings in the darkness. Now, when we say in the darkness, we talking about energy beings that exist in energy form, what we're calling basic energy, or what they're calling ether, or which we call a kakamaus. So us on Earth right now, when we say we 9 ether being, we're saying that we're 9% etherium. You understand? Until you go to the other side and start dealing with your whole being, then you'll be 100% ether.
All right. And then the second part is and how it relates to us individually.
But they're not
The
basic energy.
Yeah.
Well, nothing can exist without the basic energy. So non-ether didn't exist, nothing will be in existence in the physical realm. So even the concept of ether itself, everything is made up of ether. I don't care if you're white, Asian, whatever you want to be, they're made up of ether as well. They just made up of a less amount of ether. So as a non-ether being in the physical realm, you're made up of the highest form of ether. And then other races are lower dimensional beings. So you have 8 ether beings, 7, 6, 5. You know what I'm saying? So we say what? The non-ether is the Africans. Then who's the 8 ether? Dravidians, the 7 ether, Orientals, and the 6 and the 6 ether, Caucasian male.
Male. So females, right here, female action.
Man, and 5 ethers are Caucasian males. So everybody is still made up of the same energy of our ancient ancestors. Thus, all people on the planet are still children, even on the etheric level, of the original gods, which is the black race. Right? And anything in existence have ether in it. Anything. Every single thing that you see, everything that you touch, everything that you hear, all may be the likes may be. Is that?
I have a question from Alzamar Roderick. Rabat. His question is, are there any female Riskians? He's never seen any pictures of them.
According to the teaching, yes, there are female Riskians. However, there is no pictures of. But in Man for Planet Rest, I think the master touches on it, that there is female Riskians.
All right. We got a question from Mukta Eric Perkins. He's asking, can you know where you'll go when you transition from the flesh? And if so, have you been there before?
Yeah, I've been there many times. So here's the thing. One of the main things that we have to do that is imperative that we do while we're in the flesh is make a connection with your ancestors. Why is that important?
Right.
Because the etheric realm, which they call the spiritual realm, is not going to become a reality to you unless you make a connection. You can talk about physical things all day or spiritual things all day. But if you haven't had your own spiritual experience, it's just words to you. So it's imperative that you do spiritual practice to make a connection, make an etheric link with a grandmother, with your grandfather, with someone in your family that transition. So that when that time comes, just like when you're born on the physical side, you're born physically as a babe, right? And when you're born as a babe, there's people who receive. And when they receive you, they help you and groom you into the person that you are today. Well, on the etheric side is the same thing. You have their family on that side, but you should make a connection while you're in the physical because it's better instead of going to a place where you don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Or you don't know because you don't know what to communicate with because you never did it before while you was in the physical form. So you're going over there in a belief state. Now you're going into the etheric realm and in a belief state is a problem because there's etheric beings who are not necessarily for you. How do you know? There's a tunnel concept that the master told us about. So when you cross over, you're going to be pulled. Remember that uptake?
Yes.
She said it's going to be beings or things on different sides.
Yep.
And if you veer off and not just follow your path, your sadat, that's another being over there that's going to pull because you get distracted by them. So there's other beings that's in the etheric or spiritual realm that's been there longer than you can remember. And since you can't remember, just like you have physical beings in the physical realm who are very intelligent, there's some humans that are so intelligent, they'll have you questioning your own doctrine. Oh yeah, that's what your master say? So why is this? They question you to give you doubt, right? So they so intelligent, they can make you doubt your own teaching. So in the etheric realm, it's the same thing. There's beings on that side that could pretend that they're your ancestors, and you can follow them or go their way, and they're only there to capture your soul or, you know what I'm saying, take you over. Just the same way humans on this side try to do the same thing. Yes.
Then, if that's the case, how would you know to make a spiritual connection if they was captured by these beings? How would you be able to discern between them? If they are captured, if they go on that side You make say like you're trying to make a spiritual link, but at the same time, they captured by these other entities that basically have have doing nothing positive or anything for them. So how will you be able to get?
Like whenever, like one of your family members who may be trapped or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay, so you are the one that can help them from this side when you make that connection. Because remember, many of our family members, they transition without the right knowledge, right? Yeah. So certain things can happen to them when when they transition over to the next realm. But if you on this side is making a connection, now you have more knowledge than them a lot of times because they left before that time. Although some of them who transition, if they're on the right path, they will be hit with the reality when they're there. On the reality of what? The reality of a lot of things that you do was a lie. And you, as a person reaching over from the material realm into the spiritual realm, you're making a link with them to the point where you could communicate with them for real. Not no spookism. We're talking about, think about this. What's the purpose of praying? Why do people pray? And I know it's probably not why you told them about pray. The concept is this. When you praying, that lets you know that you on a level where you're disconnected. You hear what I said? You disconnected because there was a time when you was able to talk to your ancestors free, like we're talking right now. Right. So the fact that you got to pray says that you pray in hopes to receive a response. But when you make a connection, there is no more hoping to receive a response. You already connected. That means that if you need something right now, you're already connected with your grandmother who may have passed or your grandfather may have passed. You're talking directed to. It's not no game. It's not no spookism. It's just like how this world is. It's just that now they're in a different vibration level and you can talk to them free. You understand? So that's the whole difference. So when you can talk to them freely, they can let you know what's going on. And because you're more spiritually educated on this side, you can help them from this side to that side. You know what I'm saying? Things that you know, they probably don't know. So let's say it's a family member that got a veered off. You need to find that Sarat, that pact. You get away from those vehicles. Oh, don't go to that lake. Because they teach everybody in the world, so when you transition, go to the light. But we know you should go to the darkness. What they teach people, darkness is evil. Darkness is bad. So many of our ancestors who probably went that way, recycled again now. You know what I'm saying? So so you have more now, like I said, you have a lot more knowledge with a master that's here, that's responsible, was one of the masters responsible for your creation, who was there in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So being that you have connection with that person who wrote these books, you are better apt to help the ancestors in the third realm. But you should also be doing your own preparation while you're in the physical. And not make it just become a belief when we talk about etheric or spiritual matters. Because for many people, they make the spiritual world a spooky thing and not a realistic thing. And that's because they're never doing the spiritual work to actually have a connection. And when you actually have a connection, no one can stop you from what you know. No one can trick you from what you know. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know, you talk to your grandmother or your grandfather, and they're like, yeah, and then he is that person. If you really wanted to know and you had doubt, they can tell you. You know what I'm saying? Or if you really want to know what's going on and that is stuck on a material plane, but they ether it. You have the knowledge to tell them. See everything that you're still attracted to there, that chicken that you want to eat, those people that you want to talk to, your 60 days has expired. You need to give it up. I'm saying? Because your time has expired for this round. So don't try to be attached to things on this round. Try your best to avoid this plane at that point and get to the point where you get to your orientation. You have knowledge that they don't have. You know what I'm saying? But you would have to make the connection to see what level that they're on. Then you might meet a family member who have more knowledge than you have. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about making your link, you know?
You have a question related to that link. So Alzamartap Adia Rachel, she said, when you say make a connection before we transition, do you mean through setting up altars?
Yes, absolutely. You can set up altars. Remember, the altar is ritualistic. I'm going to tell you why. The altar is to set the mood. The candles and all that is just to set the tone of a spiritual set, right? But once you master it, you don't need that stuff no more. Once you master, so the altar, if we tell you to get a mirror or to to dress a certain way. All that is necessary to get you in that mood. But when you actually make your link, you will not need it. Because what happens if you on the street, then you need salty ancestors? Well, hold up. You gonna look like a Muslim pulling your thing on the floor, but like your pullable altar. You can just do it. You just pulls it up within your own being. You know what I'm saying? Because they're connected to you. The blood leak. That's right. You know what I'm saying? Remember, the spirit is in the blood. So they're always with you. They're never no fear, which is not.
Nah, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Got any questions in the room without another little line?
No, I'm good now. It's just hit me so.
Okay, let that marinate for a minute.
Yeah, like,
Remember, Baba says he's a spiritual master. Yeah. He's our spiritual master. So what is that? A person who's a master at spirituality, right? When you go to school and you go to a professor who teaches chemistry, he got his masters in that field.
Yeah.
So you are to learn from a master in order for you can know the subject better and they can move on. When you're a person who go to school, you say, I want to be a physicist. Well, you learn from a physicist who got his master's in that degree. Well, same thing on a spiritual level. The master teacher is a spiritual master. So one who mastered those degrees of spirituality and is now here to teach it to you. You know what I'm saying? And what better too but to learn from a master?
facts.
All right. We have a question from Mazel Stuart Moore. He says, greetings, good brothers. Question. I was reading in the book Holy Tablets, and I read where it says the Nubians, Nubuns, were mixed with chimpanzees and didn't know we were mixed with monkeys. I reasoned only the Adamites were. Can you explain, please? Thank you.
Okay, so this is why the planet is called. First of all, the Holy Tablets out there, you put it down, but no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm in hate now.
So here's the thing. Because certain beings came to this planet, they did a lot of experiments with monkeys on this planet, right? And that's why most scientists will tell you that humans come from monkeys. They'll tell you that, right? So now, what was happening at that time? We're talking now knowledge that the average scientists don't know. Scientists only know the remnants of what they can see today. Meaning, if they find the bones of a hominin, right, they could just tell you that this is an ancient human, but they're not going to call it human, right? So they'll say the older version of a human, pre-humans, right? So they'll tell you that, and it's okay, boom. They only can tell you from that standpoint. Right? But now if you go into the ancient records, let's say you go to the Anunnaki records, you'll find that they came here some 500,000 years ago, right? And what they did was experimented with the original people that was already here. So when the Anunnakis came to this planet, there was beings already here. Who was here? If you go to Holy Tablets in the early chapter, I think it's chapter 1, it tells you that the original people that was on the planet was Tahites. But these Tahites lived in the Kalahari. Now, if you look up the Kalahari right now and say, what people live in the Kalahari? That's in the Holy Tablets. The Kalahari is the area where the Sans people lived. You hear that? The Sans, that's who are. So in the Holy Tablet, the Bible was teaching us about the Sans way before he gave us the terms, right? But if you did this, don't believe me, checking it out, you would have known that the Kalahari people are the Sans people, right? But he taught it back then. Now, here's the thing. When you hear the word Nubian, many people, let me ask y'all, is the Nubian the same as the pig? Yes or no? Anyone, come on. No, it's no. But most people think they are, right? The whole thing is the Nubians and the Pygmy, they're both Africans, right? But one tribe was actually bred by the Anunnaki. So the Pygmies, the Tahites, the Sans, they came along with creation, right? And when the Anunnaki sought to make humans, what they did is dip into the genes of original people. That means the people who grew along with the planet, who came from the ocean, which was the Pygmies or Tahite or the Sand people, they took them, right, and mixed their genes like chimpanzees. And one of the strands that came out was the Nubian. You know what I'm saying? So the Nubians and the Pygmy, the Nubians are much taller than the Pygmies. The Pygmies are 4 feet and 5 inches for the male depth, and the women 5 feet. Let me go back one see my feet.
4 feet 5.
Okay. Whip 4 5. 5'4".
What they added to? That's
So the Nubians are much taller than the pygmies, right?
right.
So the Nubians is actually a creation for a gravitation of a pygmy of the Sans people to make the Nubian by mixing them with the chimp.
And how tall enough?
They're taller. You can find the answer to that, and let's set the record straight. There's a question in there, literally. Are the Nubians and the pygmy the same? You know what I'm saying? Because the pygmies are much older than the Nubians. The Nubians are the ones eventually who walked over here from the before the continental drift. They walked over here.
Yeah.
That's the migration, way before the landmass were separated. But the Sans still stayed where they are today, right? And we know that different tribes, different extraterrestrials started dipping in the Sans genes and created different species. One strain could have been the Dravidians. Could we tell you today that the Dravidians come from African peoples, right? Well, if you mix the chimp with a Dravidic, with a Sans, eventually that thing is going to grow fur and still be docile. So that's your Dravidian, right? And I believe in scientific terms, they call the what you call? They call it Africans Homo habilis, and they call the Dravidian tribe
Was it the lady?
Homo nerectus. Yeah.
That's right. All right. Stuart Moore still has a follow up. He's asking. He says, also, I'm seeing where they, talking about science, are now stating that the Sans people are the first world people. And my question is, if they are first, how come they are of a lighter complexion than many other darker tribes and countries on the continent? No colorism here. I just want to know the jump from, say, pygmy that you just talked about, dark skin tribe, and the Sans. Thanks.
Okay. So understand that there are many tribes of Africans. And I'm using Africans, guys, the term for people over Sam.
Right.
Many tribes of Africans. So the Sans would have been just one of the strands, right? And we have many scrolls and updates that tell you that the Sans are mixed. You know what I'm saying? Mixed with what? Grays. Right? So they're mixed as well. So what happens is, when you go and study it and research the San tribe, you'll find that the Caucasian, they'll tell you, the Sans people are the most diverse African tribe. You know what the word diverse means? Mix.
That's variations to it, right?
And that's why when you look at the Sans, you can find what? The different traits of different people on the planet, right?
That's right, yeah.
But you find the dimples of the Dravidians,
The eyelids.
the pH units are Ricky. That's right. On the hair texture of Africans. That's right.
Think you're that right there. That's right. Oh, that's right. That part right there.
The phonetic part.
Yeah. Oh, the Aboriginals, yeah.
Which is another strand of mixture of monkeys, right? The Aboriginals, right? So, what he was saying for host today, and so yes, there are many other African tribes in Africa. This is a tribe that the media promotes the most because they are the link to every other race on the planet. You know what I'm saying? So what we do oftentimes, the people study the teachings about. If you go into ancient Egyptian teaching, he always told you that the darker seed is first, right? But every time you go through a different school of thought, he teach you as well as relating it to what they're saying as well. So what I mean by that is, do you remember the time when the master said, if you would have the book Ancient Egypt and the Pharaohs, if I said that then, who was first, the Sumerians or the Egyptians? What would your answer be?
Sumerians.
Sumerians.
Mm-hmm.
Because of what? Because of the records. Because most of the Egyptian stuff you can't find in ancient records really. It's all clouded in what you call it? Mystery.
And symbolism.
You know what I'm saying? And symbolism. But the Sumerian records were more clear, right? But upon close examination, you'll find that, hey, the Sumerians are not older than ancient Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? Their culture go back, some 6,000 years according to them, right? And we know that they encountered with the Anunnaki, right?
Yeah.
In the ancient Egyptian culture, they encountered with the Netsirim. These are two different extraterrestrials who came to these people. The Sumerian people originally are Africans, right? The original Sumerians are Africans. But who came to them was the Anunnakis. And the Anunnakis taught them to build ziggurats, right? which was another form of their crafts as well, right? Because some of their crafts were called zigzags because it looked like it. Because one of the Anaki's crafts was not circular as we think. We know that they were squares, right? And it looks like a circle because it's vibrating, it's vent, right? So I'm trying to find where I'm at.
Now, see, you ready to get to the Egyptian? Oh, but scared their ass.
I'll just give an example. So now, upon a close examination, we find that the Egyptian culture is way older. How? Well, we could tell you because we have one of them with us. We have Tahuti with us. But if you want to say, I need a reference, or here's your reference. The Sphinx have water erosions on it. Those water erosions on the Sphinx, when there was Europeans did their mathematical scientific experiments among those Sphinx and the water erosion, they found out that that water was risen some 11,500 years. Well, the Sumerian culture is dated only 6,000. But in college at the time, when he put out Egypt and the Pharaohs, all the college university was saying Sumeria was older. But now you have, today, they have something called Nakata 1 in ancient Egypt. Naqada. Nakata 1, Nakata 2, Nakata 3. You look them up, you look at their stelas and their artifacts. It has Egyptian and Sumerian carbons on the same stela. And this is why many of the old books, the master teacher put Egypt/Sumeria. You understand? They can tell you the Tarhites was the one that ruled pre-dynastic Egypt. And the Egyptians that we know as dynastic Egypt is the ones that look like us. Why I say look like us? Because black people today are mixed. So the dynastic Egyptians are mixed, and the pre-dynastic Egyptians are not neocid. They're purebred. And they were much short. So all you people with the tall and handsome, get over it.
Let it go. We have a question from Zamal Roderick. He's asking, will we ever build another Tamaray, or are we out of time because it's time to leave?
We can do anything that input our minds. We could have been built another Tamaray if we really wanted to. You know what I'm saying? It's all about having think tanks. Think tanks is the same way the Europeans do. Us, we've been in America far too long, and we learned all the tactics of the devil, but we never used the positive tactics of him. Some positive tactics that he used is having think tanks. Think tanks is don't have all your people focusing in one direction. You have anybody focused in one direction, ain't nothing going to get done in any other area. So you have the legal team, whoever's on the legal team, focus on the legal. Other people, you need to focus on education. This group, focus on a school. Only a school. And if the legal need help, you help them. But stay on your focus. You know what I'm saying? Have another team. Some of y'all go to school to be doctors or nurses. That'll be the blueprint of saying, y'all are the medical team. Y'all focus on getting us to hospital. That's your only focus. You know what I'm saying? Another team, focus on having a legal armed force. You can do it. Look up how the police department that started and start your own in your own community. You know what I'm saying? And get the people who like to hold guns and stuff, because we got those in the tribe, right? Get those gun people and say, get us a police department. Yeah. That we run, that y'all part of, that we police our own people. So when we have a think tank, when we have think tanks that say everyone have a position, every group have a position, that's your focus and only focus on that. Oh, we have builders. Who the carpenters? They like to build? Cool. Stop thinking schools where we have the schools and we say, okay, all the young Wapians or Sabians who want to be a builder, come to us. We are the ones that got the contracts, right? And we'll train you so that eventually you can have your own business eventually. Mm-hmm. So this is how you build a nation. So if you want to build another Tamaray, it's possible. It's still possible now. And don't have we have to get out of the mindset of a doomsday mindset. Because doomsday mindset will put you in a position where you don't get nothing done. If you think the world's going to end in 2030, you ain't going to get nothing done. Because you're going to be like, it was 5 years late. Might as well don't do nothing. Yeah. And then 5 years come, and some of y'all get picked up, and the rest of y'all still don't have nothing, right? So we're supposed to be building regardless of what's going to come. Because guess who's still going to be here if some of y'all is picked up? Don't some of y'all have babies? That's right. The rest of y'all. Yeah. What if they don't go? Don't you want to build something that even if you're not here, is something for them? You know what I'm saying? So we got to think for the future, think for the children. So yes, we can build another Tamaray, whether we want to build it here or build it abroad. You know what I'm saying? And there's ways to do it. you go to a land first and make sure everything is on. No one goes to a country without doing total recall. You got to go there and see how it is. See how the land is. See how the people are. See how the area it is, so that you do stuff effectively, so that you don't just go to a place where picking an area where people be just robbing and killing people, right? So in that sense, you go and do research in these areas first, particularly the men, right? Group of men who want to say, let's build a Tamaray. We go there, find an area, and make sure it's safe. Get your military. And when I say military, I don't mean like army. I mean like find out how can you get armed guards that you want. That's when you bring your police officer family members and say, hey, we want you to be found the land, but we want to first secure this area. Because you don't want to be building another country and you live in here. There's people who have land in I know close relatives. We have land in, let's say, Jamaica. If you in America and you got land in Jamaica, trust me, someone's going to be living there. And you don't got nobody watching that junk. So you want to make sure you have family member that's going to be foot on the ground over there to make sure you watching the site that gets built. Because it's a whole process for this type of stuff to happen. And it can happen, like I said, if we really want it to happen.
Like we have it in Trinidad.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yep. We could do anything we want to do. It's just a matter of thinking it, executing the plan. Once you have the goal, the next level is to execute the goal. That means you got to take steps towards it. If you don't take steps towards your goal, it's never going to be accomplished. Understand? That's all it takes.
I don't have any questions at the moment.
Would it be wise to build a Tamaray in America again?
We can if we choose to. We can if we choose to. It's like this. Once again, it's that concept of the doomsday concept. We never know what's going to happen. No one knew that Bob was going to be in jail for over 20 years. Did you know that?
No.
Some people could have went to school to become a lawyer right along. Take 7, 8 years to become a lawyer. Could have had hundreds in Wappies who became criminal defense lawyers. But because they was waiting on somebody else to get them out, right? There's no lawyers. That's one of us. Because one of us will fight harder for him than one of them. You know what I'm saying? A person to say they Sabian or the Wahhabian, they'll fight 100 times harder than a person who's not one of us. So in that time span of 20 years,
We could have did that.
of course, and we still could. Some people are still waiting. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like, okay, he's going to come out. So going back to your question, brother, it's not a matter of if it's a bad choice to do it here. We could if we choose to, because at the end of the day, every government, every land is always going to come with its own stuff, right? And if you build one here, you know how America functions already, right? Because you lived it, and you lived here for a long time. And I'm not saying to say stay here, but let's be real. If Bob would come out right now, he said, let's all go to Africa. You know damn well everybody's not going to go. Right or wrong? That's better. Everyone is not going to go. He told people go from north to the south. Everyone didn't go. He told people go from the south to the north. Everyone didn't go. So at the truth is, everyone is not going to move when he says to move. You know what I'm saying? So for the people who still want to be in a certain area, stationary in certain areas, build. When Baba told people to go from one place to the next, what if you was a person who had property? What if he said, move from Georgia to the north? What if you owned your property? What you want to do with your property? I'm asking anybody. What you want to do with your property? Or you want to foolishly sell it? Or intelligently hate it? Which one?
On the regular rate, there's this income.
But some people have a mindset of, he said go in, so
I'm gonna show every
so no. You become a person who become a landlord now. I'm a landlord. I'm gonna leave a space for me just in case I gotta come back. I'm gonna rent out second and third floor, and the first floor is gonna be mine. Just in case I gotta come back. Right? And then I'm gonna make the move. So now I got money coming in for my tenants, right? And I still got a spot just in case I can't make it to the north. Right?
That's right.
That's intellect. Right? Yeah. So it's the same thing. So if you wanted to build here, you could still do it. Just be smart about it. You know what I'm saying? And watch the time. Watch what's happening and know how to move. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it's going to take time even if you want to build somewhere else. You still got to do the work and go to those places to make sure it's secure. Because it's one thing to say you want to go to Africa, but it's another thing of actually living there and trying to build in an area that you've never been at before. You know what I'm saying? So this is wise to go there first. So yes, those who want to still build, build. Let me tell you something. If I got property in America and it's time to go to Africa, I am keeping my property in America and I'm going to rent it. I'm turning it to Airbnb. I ain't going to be a fool and sell my property. Why would I do that? That's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, no matter how America go, Trump can make this country, Trump, right? That's his name, right? He can make this country go. He can make this country fall. But you know what's going to still exist? People need a place to live, right? Real estate will always be here, no matter what. It has to really get a bomb thrown on this. And even when that happens, you got to rebuild again. Still got to rebuild. You know what I'm saying? So if you got to leave, if you do plan to go to another place, still keep what you have here and turn that into an income that you get paid while you're there and periodically come back to check on your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Or hire a management company that does it for you. Because they let them get a cut of what you get paid. They'll send your money to you. You know what I'm saying? So it's ways to do things. We have the Africans in America have the knowledge to do anything anywhere else. Because we've seen the even one do it already. The good things that he knows how to do. Real estate, you can take that to Africa. You know what I'm saying? If you have money. You know what I'm saying? Say you got a property that has a lot of money on it and you got a lot of equity. If you know what you're doing, you go to a certain place that you checked out and did the demographics and say, you know what, I'm going to build something here. If you go online, you see people building in Ghana, all these places. Mansion type stuff that didn't even cost a lot of money. That what you paying for right over here, they pay $100,000 for something to look like a mansion to get built from the floor up. You know what I'm saying? If you have a property, you could use that equity and take that and go there with the knowledge. Don't just go. You know what I'm saying? With the knowledge of the area and how it's developing, and then you build something. Because who wants to go live in a hut? I'm joking. No, I'm joking. Africa is revolutionized. It's just like here. Don't be fooled by people out there. So just like you see houses in apartments out here, it's the same thing out there. But they got many American blacks thinking it's not like that, who don't travel.
What do you think about expectation from the tribe is, and do you think that the tribe is executing its desire besides freedom beyond that?
Besides freedom as a tribe as a whole?
Yeah, what do you think its expectations are from the tribe?
I think one of the things is push the information out there. That means saving souls while we're still here. Building. One thing we have to understand about Wu-Sabat, it's practical as anything else on the planet. As long as they're doing practical things the same as on the walk-ins, then we're executed the plan. One thing you have to keep in the forefront of our mind is always, what would we say he's locked up for? We know the bogus charges, but what the most people say he's locked up for?
Shout out mistake, sir.
No, that's the bogus charge. Right. What do we say he's locked up for?
Spreading the truth.
Truth, right?
Yeah.
So if the truth stops, is not being spread no more, right? Then we be audits. Dr. York single-handedly got the whole New York and Georgia to know him single-handedly. And eventually over time he had help with the people who came along on the board, right? We still got thousands of Swampy and Sabians. Why is people turning to Christian and getting baptized at this damn time? Why?
Falling asleep.
Why are they falling asleep?
Okay, though.
So what happens is we're falling short as a whole, right? Where we're not pushing information to the world. We're not making this look sexy and appealing. It has to look sexy and appealing to make people want to be a part of it. What do you think the headdress and the tie is all about? You know what I'm saying? Your culture has to be fly for people to want to be in it. If it don't got that touch to it, most people don't want to be a part. If you look like you bumming it, if too much of y'all bumming it, people want to. I'm not joining them. People want to join stuff that looks successful, and they only can tell if something's successful by the practitioners of their culture. So if you unsuccessful, and if I keep seeing me and I'm like, he's unsuccessful, she's unsuccessful, then I'm going over here. I'm serious. You understand? Because you end up want to go where it's success at. Well, Wu-Sabat is success. But a lot of times when a person don't really read these scrolls and study them, they don't understand that is the success in the scrolls itself. How? You got people who will probably pay psychiatrists, right? We are books that teach you about your mind and how it works. You know what I'm saying? That the very thing that your psychiatrists are doing to you is in the mind book, is in the potential book. But you wanted someone to talk to you, right? You didn't want to take the book and just use it to help you, because everything you could think of in your personal life, the scrolls can help you. You know what I'm saying? A person may say, what about business? Where's the business book? Well, one thing for sure, the master probably never taught a business class in general, but he did to certain people. Now, what was the business of a Sabian Wapia for real? What was our business supposed to be? Stores. Exactly. That means it ain't supposed to be just one store in Jersey. One store in the... No! It's supposed to be like McDonald's. One store here, couple miles down, there's another store. Couple miles down, there's another store. And what he said, when you have your own store, and at that time he used to say bookstores could make $4,000 to $5,000 a month, right? Something like that, right? I think there's a week, but let's say a month, right? So we fell off the path of what we're supposed to do. Get stores, be anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Be in people's face, because being in people's face, he had a class Ansar time. He said there was a time when there was Ansars and they would give out, pamphlets. And he said they would do this, they would do it in the morning with people going to work. He said when the people was going back home, they still seeing them out there. You know what I'm saying? So it gives you freedom when you have your own business. And run it and treat your business like a real business. That means that you could hire people, right? Let me show you something. Example, how you can learn from the devil. Certain things that they do. You ever been to B&H? Camera Store, 34th Street? Anybody? A minute? Who runs that store? You could go with us. The Jews, they run it. How do you know? They all over that truck. But do they hire? How do you know? Because they in there in their attire. You know what I'm saying? They're walking around, and sometimes you have to ask them, hey, do you have this type of camera on your computer, right? The whole point is that store closes every Saturday. So they link the store, their business is linked to their culture. Right. So in their culture, they're like, you don't do nothing on Saturday. So B&H is closed on Saturday. Do you think there's only Jews working in the store? Nope. No, it's not. Everyone in the store wears a green vest, including them, right? But they hired any. So you turn your bookstore to something where it can hire people, right? And now, there's incentives when you have employees in the government, in this type of government, right? So you can make your thing a big thing and still have those of us who's in here who wear the crowns and stuff that walks around. Because we know this our store, right? And still have employees. You have somebody at the door. We can't get brothers and sisters to guard the store, right? Okay, so I'm a hire security. As long as the store is making money, I'm going to hire security. Because the security will greet you as soon as we come in. Route back. We don't tell them. We greet people route back. Right. You know what I'm saying? And they'll ask you what means greetings. So you will start turning the culture into a lucrative business as well, so that every Sabian and Wapian, if they're interested in trying to get their own, right, they can do it. And then if the hubs are doing their part and say, okay, we're the place that you get the books, start producing it in such a way that every store is a hack. Yeah. Here's the thing. If you have a store and I come in your store and you don't got no books on the wall, and you say it's a bookstore, I'm going to think you're a drug dealer. No, why? Because back in the days in the hood, stores that didn't have products in it was a drugstore. And I ain't talking about a pharmacy. Right. Right. So what happened is people like to support things that look healthy. You ever notice that a celebrity gets into clubs and restaurants for free and the working man doesn't? Working man and woman doesn't? Or a homeless person, people who thinking about giving them their money, but they literally give these people who got money free things all day. You know what I'm saying? So when you look healthy, people want to give to you. And for my studying the master teacher, right? In every school that he did, in every community that he built, it was always looking like something that you want to be a part of. And that will make more people join. You know what I'm saying? And that's the stuff that we're missing in this state of time. We fell into this thing where we just waited. If you just wait, and your life is not going to be meaningful for you no more. And you're going to lose the essence of what this is really all about. You know what I'm saying? And people are getting over it. Your children are getting over it. You don't want your children to look at the culture and say, my mom's a dad did that. I ain't trying to do that. That's what's going to eventually happen if you don't make this a success. Because you're looking at other people as success out there. So this has to be the model of success. And when your children see it, then they're going to say, I want to be a part of that. I want to do that. He taught us one thing. He said, the Netzeru look down at us. He said, we as adults look at each other. He said, the children look up to us. So we have to be something that the children look up to and say, I want to be like. Because without the knowledge, that's the whole purpose of this whole thing, getting people, waking them up. I heard this thing. Anybody have a question? No, it's some questions. I heard this thing. Reason right knowledge had this. We have this concept really where we can help people on a higher level. We really have a doctrine that is a higher level teaching. You ever hear people tell you the original first month of the year is what? You ever heard this concept, this conversation? The original month of the year, they'll say though, is March. And if you Google it right now, they'll tell you March was the first month of the year. But with a right knowledge mind, we don't be swayed by that type of knowledge. And I say garbage because you say, but that's a fact. Yeah, but the question is, whose calendar? You heard that? Whose calendar? So you got Nagaros on social media, they thinking they're deep. No, January is not the first month, it's March. How about our own calendar and leave the Romans and the Greek calendar alone? So in the Romans calendar, yeah, the first month was March, but that has nothing to do with us. Who cares? What about who created the first calendar? Tahuti. And what did he hold the first month? It wasn't March. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't January. It wasn't none of those gods, the Roman or Greek gods. Because you know all those are gods in their culture. You know what I'm saying? So we try to open up people's minds to a different way of seeing things that relates to them. Most people, the way most people learn, they learn by way of what the Caucasian taught. And a lot of things that they think that they say that they think is deep, it's not, because it doesn't relate to them. It's not deep because it relates to another person's culture. It becomes high level when it relates to your culture. You know what I'm saying? So March being the first month, good. Not for us though. That's somebody else's count. You know what I'm saying? So these are the concepts. That's just a small, minute concept. We could do this all day with many different topics that people out there are saying, and we know that it's wrong, but they get in a following and people are listening to them because what? This is the what? Information age. And because of the information age, a lot of people is teaching garbage. Some got some truth, but there's a lot of garbage out there. And usually when they got some truth, they got it from us. Just saying. Just saying. I'm saying. They ain't gonna tell you, but they got some us. Yeah, everybody talking about, you know, if babies are green when they're little. That's Dr. York. Stop playing. Oh, Nanito. That's Dr. York. Stop playing. You know what I'm saying? What else? What else they saying out there? Oh, they're worried about their Anunnakis. The Anunnakis. That's Dr. York. Stop playing. And Zechariah says, you know, to get right. So, all this stuff that people are talking about now is stuff that we was talking about 30 years ago. Yeah. It was it. We like past y'all. Now it's all telling you what they really about. You know what I'm saying? So you got people out there like, yeah, I'm a Anunnaki, man. And they're like, okay. Cool. If you want to be that cool, I'm a Netzer.
Right. He's right. Go further down and see what things help.
Yeah, be an Anunnaki. Yeah.
And that's because a lot of people left the teaching a lot of people dropped out of school at the wrong time. It's like if mathematics was to be taught in the second grade and a person left in the first grade, they wouldn't learn basic math. 1 + 1 is 2. They wouldn't learn that, right? They'll be like, when they come to us, when they left, if they left in first grade and we're now in second, they come to us and kicking stuff that's in first grade. You're like, that's really not it. That's actually wrong. But it was taught like that. No, that was a lower level of information. No different from this. When a child want to know about sex, what do most people teach them? Birds and the bees. Birds have nothing to do with bees.
Or the letter B, right?
But they give them something to quiet them for a second and say, there's something to feed your little mind right now. Because your mind is not ready for the real answer. Right. You're too little to know where babies come from. so I'm going to give you something. You know what I'm saying? So just like in teaching a culture or the knowledge we have, the master teacher, with the slogan, I come to give you what you want, so you can learn to want what I have to get. Or he says, I come to give you what you think you want, so you can learn to think on the level of what I really have to give him. So now we at the point of what he really have to give us, and some people are caught up on what they think they are. And sometimes they can't come out of those schools, but it's okay, because if that's the school for them, that's the school for them. What did he say? What did he teach? He says, everybody's DNA only could go but so far.
That's right.
So some people, DNA, when they hear something about Christianity, that's as far as they could go. 2,000-year-old religion. Their DNA says, I can't go no further. I need my Jesus. A Muslim, 1400. You're like, I need mama. You know what I'm saying? I can't go no further. You got a Jew. They need their Moses. You know what I'm saying? They can't go no further. So that's a 6,000-year religion, 1,400-year-old religion, and 2,000-year-old religion. Then you got people that's on the Anunnaki trip. That's 6,000. A little over 6,000, according to them, right? Then you got us. We say we go back to the Netzib. We say, really, the Netzib culture is millions of years old. But just to calm their little ego, we'll go by the numbers that they use. It's okay, 10,500, cool. We know the pyramids is way older than that. In our records, those pyramids are older than 10,500 years. You know what I'm saying?
It's 500,000. But we restore the sound. How do you, does the doctrine give us any, I mean, we have a doctrine, so there's the information that exists, but as far as helping people to elevate on a genetic level, on a DNA level, like you said, any methodologies you can use? I mean, off the top, I know dietary changes can assist in allowing people to absorb more information, but are there any other methodologies if you have, siblings, friends, parents, things of that sort? Any methods that you can use to help open the DNA to deeper levels of improv?
I would say this, like when it comes to like friends and family members, they had a problem with other family members. They're not going to tell you. And what I mean by that is this. Oftentimes it's hard for you to get a family member to be receptive to knowledge like this, because they think they know. Oftentimes they probably will hear somebody on social media who's not you, and you told them this already, and they come back and tell you like, hey, you know that there was a continental drift? I'm like, I mean, told you that 10 years before. But they didn't want to hear it from you, because they like, I know you. You put up. We tend to depreciate the people that we know. And Bob had a class one time. He used to say, it was when we was in the school of Islam. He'll say, you praying to Allah and imaginary angels that you can't see, while somebody who's doing salat right next to you is trying their best to be an angel, and you ignore them. You overlook them. You see that brother or sister doing the right thing, and you can't see the God in you because you have a veil on your eye, and you still want to pray to spookism. So when it comes to people like that, when it comes to family members and friends, we have to teach them through our action, right? That means that if the information is doing something for me, they should see it permeate through me.
Right.
If the information is success, they should see the success through me, because I'm the one teaching it. I'm the one saying, this is what I'm about. So if you're about something, then you got to understand this. We understand as Sabians, Nuapians, that all Black people, whether it's mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, are not going to be receptive to right knowledge. So with that being said, we would love for our family members who are close to us and our friends who are close to us to say, hey, I accept right knowledge, not a religion, right knowledge, right wisdom that will lead you to sound right. Right knowledge, right wisdom, right understanding that will lead you to sound right busy.
Yep.
We would love for our people to say, don't believe me, check it out. Because these are the slogans in our culture. Don't believe in me, check it out. That means don't just accept what I'm saying. If I told you something, go look it up. And that's only telling you, that's surface information. Because the stuff that we really have is not, we can't look it up. If I start telling you about star constellations, you can't look up what happened in that star constellation. Because now we enter, in our information, we have history That's the stuff you could check out. Then we have prehistory. You can't check it out. It only comes from our ancient records. So if you want to check our ancient records, right, that means either the stellas, if you could crack the stela, because most people think they could read them stellas and really can't, because there is aliens and spacecraft talked about in Egyptian hieroglyphics, what they call it hieroglyphics. But if you really can't read it, because you got your information of how to read the hieroglyphic from Champollion, right, some European, then you ain't going to really know what the ancients said. Because you need someone who had a hand in actually teaching that language, right? To give you a grasp of how it goes, of how to pronounce the words and what it really says. Because remember, ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, that's not the name either. We just use it for comprehension. That's a Greek word. So we know that it was read from up and down, left and right, diagonal. It can be read in any direction. So only the person who wrote it or who knew who wrote it can tell you how to read that. You know what I'm saying? So going back to your brother, the brother's question, to help people get to the knowledge, the best that we could do is tell them about it, be the example, and have open forums like this where they could question it. Or you could be the person at home that they could question, because people will question you if the best questions come from a skeptic. Because a skeptic don't readily want to believe it. And that's a good thing that you don't really readily want to believe me, because now when you ask your question, the question is going to be a little more harder. Right? Because you're not going to be trying to ask me to be nice to me, right? You believe in extraterrestrials, huh? So you believe in spacecrafts. Yeah. Right? So that sounds like some movie out there. So they're going to try to play you and disrespect you. You got to be prepared for that. But know how to talk. And don't get mad, because understand, their mentality is on a lower level. And if your mentality is on a high level, you're not going to take their insults as something back. You won't know that this person's brain level is not on my vibration. So I'm going to try to help. I'm going to come down to their level and talk practical on what they know. So a person say, extraterrestrials is not real. I'm like, so meteorite is not real? Meteorite? I just said extraterrestrial. A meteorite is extraterrestrial, right? They're like, what you mean? Extra? More than? Right? Or something extra that wasn't here? Tell them, ancient word for earth. Yeah. Astral from the stars. When a meteorite comes into this planet, it's extraterrestrial. You just threw them off just now. You're like, no, I don't mean like that. I mean like a little green head. Oh, you talking about that, how that baby look in the moon in the first trimester with that big ass head, them big eyes and gray skin. Because you know if you stay in water for a long time, the skin turns red, right? And in darkness, your eyes going to dilate, your pupils going to dilate. So your whole eyes won't look black. Just like the alien pictures that they show y'all called the grays. You know what I'm saying? To let you know that that's part of you. What they showing you a gray picture, that's part of you. Or reptilians. Oh, you believe in reptile? Yeah, reptile. Part of your brain is called the reptilian brain, the limbic system, right? And that part of your brain is dealing with the fact that you originally was a reptile. What you mean on a reptile? Well, if your father produced something called semen when he ejaculates, when you look at the word semen, you can see that it's talking about men from the sea. And these seamen look just like a tadpole. Tadpole is a form of a reptile, right? That your father ejaculates into your mother's body, and she incubates this reptile that transforms into a gray, that eventually transforms into a shaggy looking thing. That's you. You see what I'm saying? And now you just told them 3 extraterrestrials that they don't accept, but you just told them in practical form that they're ready to accept. A shaggy is a person who have hair on their body. Well, when you look at that baby that have water, they going to have hair on their body, even if it's fine. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be on their body. And then in certain places, it's going to grow more. If you're a person who was born on the genetic line that's closer to animals per se, you may have a little more fur on your body. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that, you just make it practical for them so they can see it. Don't take a person who's on this level and take them up here. No, they on this level, come down to their level. That's how you help those people. And make it very simple for them. Because Nuapu, Wu-Sabat is simple. It's common sense. Most people don't have common sense no more. So it's just exactly. And because of that, it makes it hard to teach people. But the people that you can't teach, understand this. Everyone is not born intelligent by nature. You understand that? Everyone is not born intelligent by nature. A person who's intelligent, they was born like that. Who's unintelligent was born like that. So if you're trying to teach a person who's unintelligent, you're never going to get to them. It's like teaching a person who's mentally challenged. They only could go but so far in knowledge, right? But a person who is intelligent, they will care what you say and not just fight you, but eventually go check out what you say and go do the research if you really want to know something. And then that will transcend to testing their faith in what they actually believe in, right? We have concepts like if somebody say, a person say to you, hey, so you believe in everything that you taught? What's the answer? No. You're not taught to believe.
That's right.
We taught to invest. Oh, the Lord is there. And the answer that Baba gave in the class, he said, somebody say, do you believe in this concept? He said, tell him, he said, what's your belief? He said, I believe that you should not believe. We should investigate. That's the answer. And most people can't accept that because most of the things that people think they know is what they believe. I'm saying, and belief is the most dangerous word in the English language because you can't spell it without a lie in the middle. B-E-L-I-E, Allah, right? Be lying. So most things that people accept and believe is not even a fact. It's a generally accepted lie. Just like Jesus. And Christians gonna get mad. Just like Jesus. Right? Generally accepted lie. A person that don't exist. But that story do come from a person that they would never want to give the same reverence to because they've been trained to give it to a character in a 2,000-year-old book. And if they really wanted to know who that Jesus character was, they would do the research and say, what's the oldest concept of this that relates to me? That's important. That relates to me. So if you African, you're supposed to be looking for the African concept of Jesus. And that is the Jesus that you walk with. Not follow, you walk with. You know what I'm saying? If you're a Hindu, you could go to the Hindu's concept of that. If you're Asian, go to the Asian concept of that. If you're Caucasian, you could take the imaginary version one. There you go, I guess up in the Lord. Because none of the they ain't no white Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So.
Is Baba taking receiving mail?
No. I don't have no knowledge on that. Nothing online at the moment.
So
Sometimes pasa pa na doon sa
no, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but when
sige po, where was it?
doesn't matter.
All right, what you guys tomorrow?
Getting back to the question he just asked about Baba Sepulveda being able to shut down. Can you elaborate to those that may think that he's can accept man?
That would be something that if that was so, right, we still have to be careful with disseminating that information because you have anybody who can write him, who's to say they're going to say nice things. You know what I mean? We can't discern if we're going to just be able to write what they want to this man, to this being who's still held captive. So I haven't heard anyone that's in contact with the master teacher literally say, oh, his marriage rights have been his marriage restrictions have been lifted. No one said that is in contact with the master teacher. So if you haven't heard that from someone who's in contact with the master teacher, don't assume because you heard it second and third hand that that's a fact. As my Zamal just talked about, that would be a belief that you want to accept because many of us truly want to write to him. We just want to be writing to him or write to him to discuss his personal feelings, how he's feeling in it, being away from his family, be away from all of his students, or we write to him to say, I have a problem. And because I see you as my father, I want you to give me an answer. Why my girlfriend is da-da-da-da-da. Why my husband is da-da-da-da-da. Why my children are. See what I mean? Like, you really want to express how you feel to this great being, but at the same time, if you respect him as your master teacher, as well as your spiritual guide, you have to be considerate of what will affect him positively or negatively, right? Anybody just wants to write so they can get the letter back and say, Baba wrote me. You still making about me, right? So in that context, to elaborate as best I can, that hasn't been said, with someone who's actually in direct contact with, the master teacher, where he would say, "Hey, doctor, write me." You think that's what he would say? Or the legal team who's in contact would know from the BOP that we're checking, we're monitoring his status. Has this been lifted? Has this been removed? Is he still under that? And then they will relay that to the people who can relay it to other people. You see what I'm saying? There's steps to everything that we do. That's just sound right reasoning, right? Now, some people may have victory. I don't know. You don't know everybody in the tribe. I'm sure if someone tried to write him within the last 6 months, they shouldn't be getting that letter back. And that person could confirm he's not getting, I can't write him. Or if he is getting correspondence, I'm not on the list still. You see what I'm saying? There's just a lot of parameters that we have to consider and not just jump and follow our emotional attachment with the master teacher without that salient emotional attachment that's called loyalty. You know what I mean? That's the best I can answer that question. Is it still freezing? Someone look at this, bro. I'm going to check on your phones. If I scratch you the best a little bit, okay. So you can look down at the red numbers. If they're moving, then it's not still. You see the little red thing that has the time on it?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's moving, it's probably just sticking a little bit. Most it doesn't stay on that number.
Oh, it's moving.
Okay, we good. We good. All right. Any other question?
You bring on the concept of like telepathic communication and not only with those who pass, but those who are alive as well.
Well, I believe we should believe. But this is is celebrities a thing? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one of the small ways we can confirm that for ourselves, if you have a friend, y'all been around a lot of times, how do y'all know to finish with the other sentences? Right? Or have you ever had an experience where you were thinking about somebody and they either called you or you bumped into them? It's like, yo, I was just thinking about you. That's still telepathy. We have to be so comfortable when it happens that we know how to hone it and direct it at will, right? Because the word telepathy, if you say it a little slowly, is telepathic or tie. Meaning that one time before we had vocal cords and were speaking like how we sound now, we actually spoke mind to mind. So that's why we're lambda, that part of the question. Now the other part, when you speak to someone who's transitioned, it sounds like it isn't, but in reality, it's easier. Probably the wind blowing the gate better than lost. So we talk about telepathy or speaking mind to mind or consciousness to someone who's already transitioned. That's really easier because your mind is saying, I want to make contact with them, and you don't have expectations of a physical response. You already know what's going to come mentally. And when that happens, you know it's from someone else or another consciousness by the way they speak, by the way the message comes to you, the demeanor of it, things like that. So it is possible, but we have to stop brushing it off when we get flashes of it. Oh, that was just coincidence. But when it happens more than twice, it's not a coincidence. It's an occurrence, right? And when you practice that, you'll be able to tell, like, with my sons, I've witnessed it because they're twins, right? Not the extreme version of it, but how they could feel each other. Like, so-and-so, he got hurt and he may have gotten hurt. Or he's about to wake up and he wakes up. I've witnessed that. You know what I mean? So it happens when you have a bond, but the bond is not just familial. It's not just even physical. It is a genetic similarity or symbiosis. But we have to learn how to hone that. But we to do it at will. Like, I don't feel like talking to so-and-so right now. Let me just send them a message to give me a call. Or let me just send them a message, how you doing? And they call you and say, yo, how you doing? Like, I'm fine. I appreciate the call. And when we really, like the master teacher told us, he explained it like this. If someone runs across your mind or crosses your line, reach out to them. Because they could be sending you that. Even if they don't do it consciously, subconsciously, like y'all really need to speak to, because it's a subconscious thought waves that they sent, and it's no different from the cell phone. Other than we can intentionally dial a number, but the connection is there, right? So when we link up, become one, unison or harmony with each other, we'll feel those things. And we'll be like, ooh, it's not mystical. It's just our nature. It's our black magic that's within us. And we all are one mind anyway. It's just that we separate because we see flesh. Right? So yeah, it's possible to answer the question. It's definitely possible. You just have to accept it when it happens and learn how to hone that skill, that attribute, learn how to use it at will. And then it becomes commonplace again. Right? Because like I said, people who kind of hang around each other or know each other, there's no way to explain how they finish each other's thoughts or synthesis other than that passing back and forth to each other. And we don't make it as a mystical, spooky thing because it happened. Right? So there. That's the best I know. And
Could you explain concept of mitochondrial DNA?
just the visual concept is that's a trait that the women are the only being of the genders who have the mitochondrial DNA, which is on the outside of the cell, right? And that trait that the woman has, she passes that on to her children. The female child is the only one who continues passing it on, which is why in our culture, the feminine is the record keeper of our DNA. We have to keep her protected as a young female until she grows up so she's not contaminated with outside energies of DNA. That genetic kiss is also a part of that mitochondrial DNA. You don't want to tamper with because she become a dumping ground for all these different masculines who don't mean the best for her. They just want the flesh from her. We have to be able to, you know what I mean? That mitochondrial, that's the master key. That's the lock and the key that the woman has to keep your family line in order, right? So that's what that is. And because she passes it through her children, but that extra 2.8% of genetic material that the feminine has, that would be the carrier or place that holds that mitochondrial DNA. Whereas men who have that Y chromosome, we don't have that extra 2.8% to hold that and pass it on, right? Even though it can be passed to us, we don't have that capacity to pass it on, but the female child does, which lets you know she's God and flesh on the physical plane because she does what we know by way of the previous thought religions and other ideologies. She's the only being on the planet that can actually beget life. You know, some mascots say, oh, but I gave her the semen. Yeah, you did. But it's in her laboratory that she fertilized that. It is in her laboratory, or what you call gestation or gestation, which means different stations or stages in procreation that the gaseous form becomes solid. She had that ability, right? In the reptile family, you have asexual beings. But the talking about male and female humanoids, it's the femina who does that work. She's the hardest working being on the planet. You know what I mean? Yes.
Then not to feel the female have children on their own without a back.
Yes, they can. Because they also produce that mucus by or seminal fluid as well, right? But because of her affection and emotion for us, she's forgotten that particular aspect of her power to reproduce, even though it has happened fairly recently. I'll get you the year. I think it's in this one. Okay, yes. If we had action fact number 23, which is the loads of life, the gospel of Yanun on a sacred feminine, right? Let's see. Okay, so the quarter page, well, I'll say verse 67, I'll start. So the master teacher Bobby Yanun is talking about Muknash Atu, or in English, hermaphrodites. And then you have Muknash Tu, which is the male key hermaphrodites, were raised to be the highest because their physical bodies vibrated on two frequencies or tones. Then under that is figure 28, Jose Maria Garcia, a hermaphrodite impregnates self, gives birth to hermaphrodite twins. Manila, Philippines. Jose Maria Garcia, 19-year-old, born with both ovaries and testicles, and who had both male and female sex organs, has given birth. This morning at the Amasola Maternity Hospital, reports from another time, both babies were also born hermaphrodites, displaying physical characteristics and genitals of both genders. a miraculous event, according to Dr. Z. Han Shab, who is the medical director at the Amersfoort Maternity Hospital. So he writes, "We are privileged to experience such an unusual birth," he told reporters, visibly happy with turning events. So this is something that happened currently. And you can look it up by the name Jose Maria Garcia or Dr. Z. Guan, Huan, Chow. He's the medical director. So guess this positive. She still had it in her body to do that. But she no longer has the cognizant or the ability to do it at will. What happened when they decide to do it at will? What would be our purpose? For the masculine to think the only way a woman can have a baby is by the transference of the seminal fluid that he produces, as opposed to one that she produces on her own. What happens when they get back to those natural powers? What purpose do the masculine serve? We still have a purpose. It'll be to serve, it'll be to protect and provide, which is what the master teacher is telling us to do, which all men in households should already be geared to do. You know what I mean? So the coming together was more of a physical attraction as opposed to a spiritual necessity.
Does the doctor have any specific way? There's, different ways to birth. There's water births, there are births in hospital,
Right.
birthing in a squatting position. Did the doctor talk any specific way in which that process should go? Should it be in the water? Should it be in the ocean? It's saying called dolphin birth.
Naturally, it would be the water births because the baby, the child, the embryo or fetus is in water. See what I'm saying? So according to natural nature, it will be the natural water birth. But because we're here and it's within this modern society, everything is at birth, right? The women, because now you're dealing with the laws of gravity, right? So she has a baby, her stomach is swelling. The labor is over now, or the laboratory work is over. It's now time for the labor, which is childbirth, right? So she's already standing, and then she would squat and have her baby pass from one water to another water, or maybe out, et cetera, et cetera. That would be natural. So while we go to the hospital now, they have the woman, not only is she no longer on her feet, she's on her back where her legs were. So they have to pull the baby now. That's a distraction. That's not natural birth. But because we've been doing it here for these generations, we accept that as what should happen, right? If it was natural, they wouldn't have to put her legs in what's called a stirrup, right? And tell her to push. Now she's actually pushing against gravity, which is causing more labor pains. It's making it harder than it should be because these beings who control our visits to the hospital, as opposed to the women who come to your home, doula, get the doof, thank you. The doula, sisters, the doula, they know these things. They don't tell a woman when they go to the hospital. They say get on the bed and push the door. They're like, listen, do we have a tub of water? Can we put in some water? Or can we have at least staying this way, squatting like you said, and then she can just get that birth? Because what happens is, on is her birth canal, Minnie has to yield, yield, and let gravity do the rest. Just have someone that catch the baby on, that's the baby. But that's how cool the Appalachian is. So in our culture, that would be the preferred birthing method because it reduces all these other things, breaches, it reduces all those other stuff where they have to literally injure the baby trying to pull them out. But I mean,
And no cutting of the umbilical cord, right? Not right away.
Not right away, because that's still how the baby is getting nourishment, right? So you can have the mother with the umbilical cord still resting, she's still cupping the baby, things like that. Let him or her get used to the air, which is water, but it's a lighter form. So let the child get used to that. Then you can cut the umbilical cord, right? And then you do it properly, and then there's rituals for that we have, right? When we bury it, we bury so many feet down, right? And put stuff around us. The time we spoke of the devil or shaitan, but reality is the disagreeable beings who want that fluid, who want what's in the placenta. And then that is not just disagreeable spiritual beings, that's a physical thing. We actually had the doctors down who did not want the mothers to keep the placenta because they want to do experience on it. And they want to do the cell structure and what's that? Stem cell. They want to do all of that. And that's a youth movement for them. They will use that so they can kind of retain their youth, where we don't need to do that. If we're eating right, we're practicing our culture. We age already slower than them. How? Because we're not from here. That's the practical way I can say it. We're not from here. That's why I go black go crack. I know because when we first were growing with the planet, we had sun-deep genes that had made us adapt to the gases changes on this planet. So that's in us, right? So other species, other races don't have it. And that's why, again, to certain back to the question, water birds would be the most natural way. But again, they've instilled that dreaded fear where even your mate, one or the other, give me a male or female, because the woman can say, I don't want to go to the hospital. I want to have the baby at home. And this guy, the man of the house, he's like, nah, we don't go to the hospital because I work for so-and-so company and we got blue steel or we got whatever. And they're going to, you know what I mean? So the mindset, that there you go, you have they're not equally yoked mentally and it causes a problem. So at the very birth of the child, y'all have dissension because she's going to hold that against you because she knows what's right. She knows what naturally she's calling for. And you want to step in and usurp that because you think you the man. And you had the least amount of time with the child. And I'm talking about the genetic kiss part. That was the least amount of time spent in the pad. She had months, trimesters with the baby, feeling it growing inside of her. So don't you think she has a little more say on what's comfortable for her? You know what I mean? So we have to get back to that, where we're not trying to just subjugate the woman just to be opposing point of view in something as sensitive as birth. Because when she's getting birth, she's nearer to death, as we know to be. A lot of women go to that baby, they never come home. You see what I'm saying? So that what happens? She has enough to worry about, but now you telling her she has to go be among strangers. Don't look like her. Some of them do, but the majority won't. Who are telling her things that she in her conscious mind, she knows that's not how naturally it would happen. We just say we don't have that genetic memory of something as important at birth, right? So we have to really come together and defend her at that she's most vulnerable there. Just like she becomes vulnerable when she becomes attracted to the man. She's vulnerable now. She's like, oh, I love him. Usually the woman says it first. And I want to, I chose him. He don't know it yet. That's going to be my man. They've already done all of that. So when you accept that invitation, she's giving a receptor to the point where she what's the word? She submits a lot of her divinity and trusting that us men, would actually take care of that. And we take it as a win instead of as an opportunity. You know what I mean? So yeah, we have to really come together and do things naturally. And that way the baby's coming into a healthy environment because babies are very sensitive to the energy in the room, right? And if the mother's hugging the baby, but she mad at you, that baby feels that tension. And that's why the baby won't come to you as much. But she already knows what the baby knows what the mother's feeling. That is everything too. You see, and then a genetic agreement that the baby will side with the first teacher. They have to, because they're the first teacher, right? We can come along and do our part, and we had that agreement with them as well. But we're talking about something that's happening internally, inside out, and then your part. You have to be able to protect both of them. So protect it before the offspring happens. You know what I mean? That's the best I can. Messed up.
And the name is usually after their birth, right? Well, that might be optional, like maybe if you did that.
That's another point, right? In our culture, our ancient culture, we had naming ceremonies, right? You watch the baby for 8 days. You know, everything is 8 or 9. Everything is 8, right? So 8 days, what happened? I mean, it's a family and gathered, right? You're watching the baby, which one of the characteristics attributes they exhibit the most, and they do, because right now they know mama and they may know papa, but they know them. So they're literally expressing them, right? Is the baby calm? Is the baby easily agitated? Is the baby a light sleeper? Is the baby actually aware to sounds and reacts? So you have to name the baby on the things that they're showing in that time period. But how about this? In the hospital, they want you to name the baby before the baby leaves. But they don't let the woman stay in the hospital for 8 days. They can get into the curb with 2-3 days at the most. If everybody's healthy, we need to bet. We need to bet. Well, if you don't name him real quick, John Doe, baby, and then you got to go through filing paperwork to rename your child. If that's somebody else named your child, because you want to adhere to your cultural dictates and rituals. That means more than you just having something on record. You know what I mean? So there, you're right about the main cerebral. A lot of things that we do naturally, it is pushed back against here in this country. They gonna push back against it naturally. Why? Because it ain't there. It's not there. So like, nah, we let them do that. I mean, they're living separate from the rule that we want to subjugate them to. And we can't have that. That's why they give you problems when you want to do your own cultural thing. Unless when you do your prenatal visit, you already making the point clear that it's going to go this way if I'm going to keep coming. By law, their law, but not the rules of nature. But by their law, you have to go get prenatal vitamins. You have to go. So during those visits like that said, cool, that's fine. Check. Mom, she doing good. When it's time for the birth, we're going to do it at home. If you say that already at the first trimester, by the time the third trimester, they know you're not coming. Right? And then you had time with a doula or birth mother. You do that at home, you had time to do your 8-day ritual with that child. No one's going to come rush the spot and like, hey, I'm from the hospital, man of Vegas. Yeah, his name is Door and Slam. You know what I mean? So we have to get back to that. Be proud of things that we hold near to our nature because it makes us live naturally when we do that. All right? Pray that help. Oh, but all that worked out. All that, all fine. Any other question? No. Well, this ain't me on it. So, back to this person now, and I will. So, as y'all been noticed, those were in the room, y'all probably didn't see online, but we have started a, what's the word? Non-perishable tool drive for the bookstore, which is for elders, women, and children. Whenever you visit All Eyes on Egypt in Jersey, maybe the other bookstores and temples doing that too, we only ask that you bring a memory of 2 non-perishable items for a visit. When that happens, once we get that, we already collected the names of the elders, collected the names of the women who had children, and as family, they may need our assistance. This is not a thing of anyone to be ashamed of or not what you want to do it. That's cool. If you're a woman and you don't want to do that, speak for another sister that related to the bookstore or connected to the bookstore, and she'll come and to grab what she needs for you. Don't feel that you don't have family here. That's not what we're about. We live powerful and by each other. And that's just one of the things that we're doing. We have other things coming down the line. We have other events, etc. But the non-perishable food items is something that we ask anybody when you come to visit us for class or spiritual night. Whatever it may be, just bring 2 items. All right? And we can explain it to you then as well. If y'all don't need to know what it's for. So I may take, no, I'm just kidding. But I'm not taking any of that. That's for elders in our tribe. That's for women with children who needs that. And trust me, if you're watching the way the world is going, these things are going to become a necessity. Period. Nothing to fear, but just know how to act. Know how to be proactive before we get to the point can't get the help that you may need. All right? Any other questions?
On free dynastic Egypt, right? Or is the doctrine related to more? Is the doctrine have you and free dynastic Egypt or?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. When we're talking about pre-dynastic eras in ancient Egyptian culture, you're dealing with the tides. You're dealing with the daughter when they first came down, about Enias, who first came out the water. That was our culture. That's pre-dynastic, meaning that there were different dynasties by different groups of pairs of the Natharu or Enias who were ruling, and each one of those pairs, right, but husband, wife, or consort, and children, they ruled for a certain amount of time. And then when the next succession of rulers came, they didn't have a number, like, oh, this is 1, 2, 3. And when they started numbering, that's what we call the dynastic period, which was actually mixing in of those fabricated Gotham, or what we call African, who left and migrated back. When they first came back, they weren't even allowed to come into Africa, as it was, all Egypt, as it were, until later it came in like slowly. Then you got the invasion of the Hyksos, who came in, spent time, and then they began to get in position of rulership. Then you started getting these names, the numbers, you know what I mean? fourth dynasty, fifth dynasty. But Egypt existed for millennia before they started counting them. Like with us as Nagaru, we don't have a birthday. There's no need to say, oh, the first Nagaru was on the planet. This was the birth. No, because we descend or relate to beings who predate, right? Who predate the existence of this solar system. That's why we say we grew along with, but there's no birthday for us and the race that we can count can be counted.
Well, I'm not sure if you know, but what's like the date ranges of like African spiritualities, like, you know, dealing with the Orishas, like a Batama, Shenyo, things like that. Is that pre-Egypt, or is that
That's that came out way out.
way out?
Well, listen to the name that you said, Obat's Allah, Father Allah, Obat's Father, Salah, Obat Allah. So that actually came from the Arabians or Arabic who came in. In Holy Tablets is like a story about that. So that's still the after. That's something that had its root of the first speed purity, but is not equivalent to the Netus. So it came along after that. Again, when people left, came back, when they went to certain areas, they had conformed the culture to the time or the region that they were in. And that's how they got that. Orisha, Ife, Batara.
So you wouldn't say roots and pure African culture, then, right?
No. And when we, right, as the first world people, when we were on the planet, it wasn't a division on culture or ideology. We were all one thing. But then again, people migrated out, right? And I'm glad to remember from our part of the planet, it was all us. We migrated out and you had other extraterrestrials who were actually coming down to the planet and they had their culture. So you got to came in contact with them, mixed with them, accepted some of that. Okay, tried to come back, come back home, but we look different now because of the genetic breeding. So we want a lot of those people who migrated out, not back allowed in. So they fell away with what they could recall from the culture, mixed in with who the people that they didn't breed with, and that gave birth to other different religions. Because isn't that still a religion? Like Santeria, right? The Orisha, that's still religion, as opposed to a cultural practice, a cultural way of life. So that's why aptly I could put in things together and it came back like that. So yeah, that's not originating African for the lack of a better word. That's not origin or doctrine.
Would you say our original recent Egyptian culture, primarily?
As far as the teachings are now, right? It still would be what we know it to be as Wu-Sabat. Right? And now when we hear the word Wu-Sabat, you have to hear the word Saba, Haba, heavenly book, which means stars, children with a star. So we had a culture prior to coming. It's just that for evolutionary purposes, life was germinated on it through waters, which was the Abdoaz, which finds its root per se for common conversation of the Egyptians as water beings. So when they come onto the land, now we had the what? We had the Abdoaz, then you had the Eniaz. Abdoaz again is 8, 4 pairs 2. You had the Eniaz, which is 9, 4 pairs, but then you had the head with the Atum. Again, you can only take that back as far as what we are calling or what the world would know as ancient Egyptian, right? Not mythology, but ontology, dealing with cycles of time when these things happen. Talking about the water beings was in the water for millennia, 2 at a time. That's why they listed that as 2 at a time. From primordial, which would be New attack, all the way back down to Amun attack and Amun, right? Then it came on land. By what? And that got reached back. Then we use it the head, which is Atul, and then we had Tabruz. So when we talk about the Yoruba, right? So let's see. This is an update from July 27, 2010. But like I said, if you had the Obit tablets, there's also a story to break down into another older scroll, right? Where it goes into who the being was, how they originated that, how they took on certain aspects of these other cultures and made it. So just briefly, when you had consulting or come in contact with Yoruba, you have 1 foot in grave and 1 foot on dry land. They are Arabs. It didn't originate in Nigeria. but that's a prominent location for it now. That means they went back to Nigeria and forced that on people because they were in power as a lot of. So everybody has to kind of succumb to that. So now, it was taken there. Oba equals father. Allah equals God. Obatala equals father God. Yoruba is O, or Arabs. Arabia is where it comes from. When you go to a Yoruba ceremony, what's around? Whiskey, cigar smoke, and blood sacrifices. All the things he told us to stay away from, talking about the master teacher, right? All to lure you in with the 30 personalities and link you to the Arabian spirit forces. When you are drunk, your confidence falls. When you smoke, you become mesquite. The mesquite is like a flavoring that get used on food, and this eat barbecue, stuff like that. Are they good and bad spirits of Yoruba? So that the question was asked. So it said, pawn it off, but on Master Teacher Bobby Agnew was asked, are they good and bad Yoruba? He said to her, the ones that deal with herbs are good. And the ones that deal with blood, you need to stay away from. How did it spread to the land? Go to the book called Let's Set the Record Straight on page 240, verse 153. These same hybrids further poison the land of Africa, enforcing their mythological religious beliefs and practices, such as New Yoruba. You know, you said New Yoruba because those people who migrated out of Africa and took our culture with us, those are the ones who stuck to the herbs. Those are the ones who did not accept blood sacrifices. But when they mingled into other people from other extraterrestrials, which was their way, they combined it, right? So like let's say, for example, you have an ulcer for your Yoruba practice, right? And you're a good person, but you had the new Yoruba. You have all those dictates. So now you're lighting a cigar, leaving food out for the the spirit and calling them. Doesn't that decompose the food? So when it starts to decompose or rot, for lack of a better word, what type of spirit attracts to rotting flesh? That's not a beneficent, or benevolent spirit. That's a disagreeable. That's coming for that. Why would you smoke or why would you be food when the spirit doesn't have physical lips to consume your food? So what your properties that are eroding from this rotten food that attracts that level of being? So let's say, again, these are the same libraries for example, Africa with their mythological religious beliefs and practices such as New Yoruba, New Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and many others, and even Africans. Then it goes on to a question, the same spirit that gives you the Holy Ghost. The original Yorubas lived in Nubia and Egypt via the spread of the Yoruba religion. The Yorubas encountered the Arabs of Arabia, who were by this time mixed in with the Ottoman, the Turks, and the Russians, who get their religious beliefs from, again, the Anduna, right? All these different disagreeable beings. And that's all I have on that. But again, the herbs and all that comes from natural nature, and they practiced that, and it was called Yoruba for some, but it still was Wu-Sabat all the way around till people left and came back to it from one time.
So it's safe to say we should just stick to our stuff.
Absolutely.
Over the years, we've been given so many things to do that. I even communicate with our ancestors. Those beings that you need help from. You got ordering through them books all of them in the year.
Right. That's still ours. Exactly. Because we're doing it with the right intention. We're doing it with a direction to go into, right? So some people, if you already study, if you have the Yoruba in your genes, then that's your religious practice. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a proponent of that religious practice, you should owe it to your soul and the destination of it to really research which was your calling, right? They have some in the religion of the Yoruba that you call war down upon people. You have some that are angry spirits. Why would you call them if you're not an angry person, right? If you're really a good person and you're practicing Yoruba and they're dealing with the herbs part of it, not the blood, flesh-eating part of it, both those same deities that practice that protection, he will move you or whatever the threat is from it. So when we practice our culture of Wu-Sabat, that's exactly what happens. If you're moving with the Netaru, and you're giving them your true obedience, your true chance, your true practice in the culture, in order to original, you're already protected. So I wouldn't have to call them down to hurt somebody. I'll never think to do that because as a true etheric being, it's all about a shook, right? So now when you move into your own culture, right, you don't have to worry about revenge and things like that. Most people want to call somebody to hurt you, but they you wrong them. You're not even going to accept the act as deep as that. It's not going to be that deep. We already know to accept people as they are and to deal with them quarterly, right? Not in our culture. This is what we do. After we chant or whatever, if I know that, say my brother Cam, my Zamal Cam, right? He may not been feeling well. We have names in our chants that we can call and ask them to help him. That's what a deity does to promote more positive, to create a land of positivity above. We don't have deities that say, okay, I know you do this. You're the water deity, so can we drown him? That's religion. That's religion. And the men wish that on somebody. You've actually kept yourself out of the graces upon the bottom. The natural don't move in vengeance like that. You see what I'm saying? And that's the difference between our culture and other cultures. There's no get back in that. That's because you're not the judge, right? What you want to do is spiritually develop yourself so you don't have to come back. And getting revenge is putting on the path for coming back, especially if you think it worked the first time. Because now you're calling on harm to somebody else, but you're calling yourself a deity. And you're not supposed to do harm. That's for natural nature without the emotional attachment to afflict somebody if they will, or to afflict a race of people, or to afflict a certain, that's above their pay grade spiritually for you to want to call that. So like I said, in our culture, we call upon the Father to help others and call our relative when we need help personally. That's the grace of it, that then they're bestowing that graciousness upon us to have the mental awareness to say, I want to look out for my sister. I want to look out for my brother, my Zamal Tat, my Zamal. So, Panatham, can you help them with such and such? Do it like that, right? Now you're going to see what it feels like to really move like it did. Not move like someone like, I got to bitch your back. That's the mind of a young person. That I don't mean physically. I'm talking about your soul could be so immature that you think that's what you should do. If you're moving like that, I mean, I wish you well, but the end result is not going to be what's in the Sabbat. Because when we go to the hall of judgment, where they are going to judge the answer, you can't lie. They're just looking at you, see how you're going to answer? Are you going to answer as the true self that's inside out, out? Are you going to answer from that place? Or are you going to answer from the shadow being who tries to keep their acts in the dark, in the shadow, from beings who live in the dark? How can you hide from them? They look at you like, really? Okay, bet you want a trip to go back. And that is what you want. You want to be amongst them. So live in all that elevated glory and truth, Eric. All right? I pray that answers the question. All right. We have any other question?
Professor from Zoza Moonspout.
Roll back.
So, has Partner ever mentioned the drones?
Hey, yes. Mentioned the drones a while ago. About right after the New Year said that the drones, the first sighting of the drones, which is back in June, that first sighting were actually crafts. And those crafts were made by graves. And they were in Teaneck, New Jersey. And they were looking for something or someone, boo. So a lot of people will say, well, why was it in Teaneck? Well, if you were reading The Man for Paying Risk, if you read the Akasha Records, which is a very important scroll. If you read the Akasha Records, you'll see what the master teacher Bobby Abdul is talking about when he was in Teaneck, New Jersey, and these graves, which I read earlier, who actually accompanied him, they watched him, that's where they visited him. So that was the last court that they had the master teacher as a young child. So when they were in Teaneck, New Jersey this past June, they were looking for him. Now, the government knew that, and they didn't know how to explain it to everybody else. So what they did was they sent up drones so people could see them on their phone, like, oh, it's a bunch of drones, blah, blah, blah. That was camouflage from not being able to address what really happened. See, when the master teacher spoke about that, he did put it in an update, and he literally explained that that's what they were looking for, or who. The first crafts who were manned by these graves, they were looking for him. I pray that answers your question, though. All right, you have any other idea?
Rachel.
Yes, roll back.
She said, I'm on Central Time Zone.
Okay.
Should I chant on Eastern Time Zone? Have been chanting on Eastern 9 a.m., 3 a.m., 9 p.m.
And we love you for that and giving the Eastern time zone some juice. However, you are in the Central time zone. So you chant 9, 3, 9, and 3 a.m. if you're up. You can chant on your time zone. The reason behind that, because if anybody is chanting at the 939 in their own time zones, that means that sound will resonate continuously. So no, do you want to chant on your time zone at 9 to be a 9, right? Or there's others with you so y'all can chant together. But if not, yes, do it on your whole time zone as we all should. All right, I pray I answered your questions, Bota.